Cody Reed did not know if he was going to race here tonight. Showed up late, missed out on practice, was here for qualifying. They're spinning a record as they cross the line. White flag is out. This race is official. Cody Reed got too big of a gap. Gavin Rogers, Scioli are going to have the run. Ollie Finsick in the 24 as well is going to be right there. Malarkey as well. It is going to be a huge run that this 25 has to hold back. Here we go. Scioli goes high. Rogers falls to the 25. They're both trying to find an opening to get around this. They're on production machine. They're 3 wide. Ollie gives the bump to Cody Reed. Reed has the run. They're 3 wide behind. Cody Reed wins. It's go time for Hall. He's got to pass 3 drivers in 1 lap. Will he get by Forbes, or will Forbes block and defend? Hall trying to get to the inside. Forbes stays wide. Hall hits contact. Get out of the way, Forbes. Hall wants the win, but he overcooks the corner. He'll lose time there. Now going to be a 2.5 back, and Richard, it might just be down to the teammates.
Where will the mistake happen? Green looks like he's out of fuel. No, he just gets he's out of fuel. Talmadge makes the pass, and now Zach Hall coming down. But Talmadge could squeak away with this win if Hall does not get around Green fast enough.
Green just completely gives up on the chicane. He'll stay to the outside. Hall, though, he is finding himself closing in on the gap. He's a second back. Thomas Green does not there. No fuel for himself. Jared Talmadge, he doesn't have the fuel. Hall sneaks by. Final chicane. Hall overcooks it. Talmadge gets through into the wall. Who's gonna have the time? They both slow down, and it's Hall at the line. Hall.
Right now, Jared Talmadge is gonna try to throw a haymaker on number 3 into turn 3.
Down to the apron. Does Talmadge have the run? Was the dive bomb big enough? He'll slide his way into the 3. They're almost door banging off the exit of turn 4. Side by side, coming to the line, and it's gonna be Ryan Kelly with the nose. 6 1/1000ths of a second goes to Ryan Kelly. Benjamin Nelson, Cody Reed on the inside groove, but it's Christopher Wade, Shane Terrian going to be leading the middle and the outside lane. Well, Christopher Wade, he gets tapped. Spud is the 53. It's down to Zach Hall. Benjamin Nelson, lock yourself into the next round. The 79 to the outside. Zach Hall in the 32 on the inside groove. Could Cody Reed be the stealer? Inside, down to the yellow line. Cody Reed steals it at the line. Before we get ourselves to the 802 Next Gen Elite Series racing action, we want to say thank you to some of the primary sponsors of the 802 Racing League. First and foremost, thank you to 802 themselves. Thank you to our post-race show sponsor, Riptide Radio. We want to also say thank you to G-Stone Motors. You can check them out in person in Middlebury, Vermont. As well, I want to say thank you to BG Graphics. As well, the 802 iRacing League podcast, and finally, the admin box. Thank you to all the major sponsors that help out with the 802 Next Gen Elite Series. Now let's get ready for the racing action.
Motorsports and racing cars is a big part of the heritage here at G-Stone Motors. Todd and I have been racing each other for years. I love the one-on-one competition. It comes bottom line, we're all behind each other and support each other with everything we do. I think that says a lot about our company's culture. I'm Vince Quinville, Service Manager at G-Stone Motors.
G-Stone Motors, your family Ford dealership, Route 7 South, Middlebury, Vermont.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Thursday night. Tonight, we give you the coverage of the 802 Next Gen Elite Series. We're now into the midpoint of the season. It's been a good one so far. We've had every race knockout qualifying, and tonight it continues on. Over 43 drivers have registered in. Means we're going to be having a little bit of fun here with qualifying in just 8.5 minutes. But tonight, the drivers are testing out their first skill of the season with super speedway type style racing. It's pump drafting, pack racing. It's all about staying in line and ultimately surviving to the end. It's going to be a good one. We can't wait to give you all the calls here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting as you're watching the Georgia Peach 200 from Echo Park here this evening. Excited to give you the call. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me this evening will be Zach Hall. And Zach, certainly a night where we're expecting to be calm at moments, but chaotic and very intense when drivers decide it's go time.
Yeah, Sam, this is going to be quite the event. Once the green flag is dropped, we're going to get to see a lot of interesting things, I'm sure play out here at the Echo Park Speedway. But you know, with 40 cars like we're going to have out here tonight on this track, it's just going to be a lot of congestion, I would say, is one of the big words. These drivers are going to be looking for any opening, any spot they can go forward, because this track, if you know, being only 1.5 miles in size compared to the other super speedways being 2.5 miles, this track gets very, very clogged up, and it gets very tough to work your way forward. But it's one of the better tracks out there on the circuit when it comes to excitement.
Certainly is. We also want to say thank you to the sponsors that have partnered up with the 802 Next Gen Elite Series for Season 1, and that will be G-Stone Motors, BG Graphics, the 802 iRacing League podcast, the Admin Box, as well as Riptide Radio, which Riptide Radio has partnered up with us here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting for your post-race show. After the checkered flag, we'll break down the race, we'll interview our top three, and get you prepared for next week's running. But tonight certainly is going to be a fun one, on top of it just being at Echo Park, otherwise known as Atlanta Motor Speedway. This track is going to be holding a little bit of pressure for 8 drivers that are trying to continue on the Next Gen Elite Series Bracket Challenge. 32 drivers entered into the midseason bracket, but now we're down to just 8 drivers. Mark Whitley is going to be challenging Jim Ott this week. Also going to be having the Tylers going up against each other of Tyler Ducharme and Tyler Humphrey. Interesting thing about Tyler Humphrey, heard over practice, this is one of his first times interacting with this track in car combo, so it's going to be a learning lesson for that team here tonight. Also, other drivers on the other side of the bracket, going to be Chad Coleman going up against Jeff Gilmore, and your last duel of drivers that are trying to move on to the Elite Four will be Derek McDonald as well as Brett Hahn. And Zach, those 8 drivers, the pressure just isn't to race here tonight and make it to the end of the race. It starts immediate with qualifying here in 5 minutes.
That it does. This place, even though being a super speedway, somewhere you feel like you can make up a ton of ground, it's a place where you want to qualify well. It always allows you to be at that front end of the field, where, in my opinion, it's just going to be a little bit safer. I mean, your odds of getting involved in a wreck, I think the position you go farther back just increase exponentially as you go back too. So those are things you can really fix by just qualifying well. And a qualifying lap around here is nothing too, you know, it is a simple lap, I would say, but it's just so critical in how you go about starting that lap. Also, Mother Nature can play a factor. We get some wind, say something, a little bit of a gust of wind blows with you going down the back straightaway, a tailwind, that's going to help you. If you get a headwind, though, coming at the nose of the race car, that's going to slow you down. So it is one of those things where every little thing can matter in these milliseconds of time that can be, gained on the racetrack. So I think we're going to see an interesting qualifying session, especially when it comes to that cut line.
And talking about cut lines, there's also a line that you cannot cut here tonight, and that is that red line that's on your screen. Drivers during the actual racing here tonight for the 130 lap running here tonight for the Georgia Peach 200, you cannot go under that to advance position. Now, during qualifying, drivers have been told you can go down below that red line and cut the dog leg to maximize your speed and cut distance. but during the race cannot go under that red line advancing position with Zach. That's very hard to do, especially on this track that feels so narrow.
Exactly, Sam. And when you're on that front straightaway, it can be kind of tricky, especially, you know, with the way the tri-oval is. So we'll have to watch how they navigate it. But yeah, the line can always play a tricky situation, and you know, people can get shoved down there accidentally, and then you got to find your way back up and not try to advance your position or cause any too many issues. So it is always a place that you're focused on that line and your placement of the car. I think that'll be a huge topic, of course, of discussion. And also, you know, since a few updates ago, we got the update with also pit road, you know, having to enter on the back straightaway there going into 3 and 4. So that's always made a little bit of an interesting scenario now, where previously we were pitting off of 4, now pitting into 3. I think that'll definitely separate a few people when it comes to how fast you can carry speed around those entries.
And can we keep ourselves out of trouble? I think that's going to be another thing of note. We've seen already this season the aero package with this car. Very easy to unsettle the vehicle in front of you if you get too close to the rear end. What we've deemed as aero griefing. It's going to be a tricky part here tonight on how do you bump draft without hurting your trying to help or hurt the drivers around you. But coming off of last week, got to see our 5th different winner this season. We have had 5 races so far, 5 different winners. And Zach, our most recent one being Chad Coleman. A lot of the names that have shown up over the past couple of weeks that are not the drivers that have been here since the preseason are starting to get the wins over those that got the early practice and kind of the early momentum that's completely shifted. I'm curious tonight, we got a couple of more new drivers that are entering the fray for the 802 Next Gen Elite Series. Again, if you'd like to join, look up the 802 Racing Leagues. Join the Discord, pick a number, and you can come out and race on Thursday nights and have a chance to be a part of the action here this evening. But Zach, I'm curious if we're going to be seeing that trend continue of another race, a new winner, and we can continue on with 6 races and 6 different winners.
I have a feeling that that's going to be the case here tonight. I just got that weird, funny feeling that we were going to see someone new break into victory lane. I mean, there's so many names here at the 802 Cup Series. I think that's one of the things that, you know, we're learning up here, not only the names, but learning the driving styles, learning the tendencies, learning the drivers who are good at this, good at that. And I think that's the fun part of always having a brand new league like we have here at the 802. And it's been fun because, like we said, with the preseason, we got to see so many of those drivers' names that we thought maybe would be, you know, the early winners in the season. Didn't pan out for a few of them. So we'll see, you know, in the middle part of the season, will they show back up? Because, again, 40-car fields like we have here each and every week, it's easy to get kind of caught up in the mess, get caught up in something, and have a few, you know, 3 or 4 bad weeks, and then you show up out of nowhere and you're back up front. So don't count some of those guys out for sure. We can.
And with the guys that are missing out on big points, there's a lot of points that can be grabbed each and every week. The reason why they don't use a standard, there's 40 drivers, there's 40 points, 1 point per position. It's 100 points for the race winner, 95 for second, 90 for third, and then after the top 10, it goes to every driver. It's a 4-point difference, and it continues to go in that cycle of, it's kind of an odd numbers that you're getting per points per position. So it makes big gains if you have a good run, but big loss if you falter, as we'll break down a little bit more of where the point standings are at after qualifying, as more drivers have registered in. We're up to 44 that have registered for tonight's race, meaning 4 that qualify will not be racing here tonight. Only 40 get to make it to the featured event of tonight's going to be Georgia Peach 130 laps this evening of draft heavy action, but it all starts with 2 laps. Who can put down their fastest times? Who's aiming for the pole? Who's aiming just to make it to the race? As we got 8 drivers are also in the middle of a bracket challenge. Time to see who's in, who's out. Practice is over, qualifying about to be underway, and Zach, this is when the first part of the fun begins. Welcome to qualifying as the drivers get ready to hit the track.
This is the unknown we have entered now for sure, and this is where the worry of the drivers come in. You know, you would think, man, you could just go out there and be practicing this whole time, putting in those quali laps, but with their 44 cars out there we've had signed up here tonight during practice, it's hard to find an opening space on the track where you're not going to get the effect of someone's draft, and so you're never going to get really like a good reading on what a good qualifying lap would be, or where to gain speed and ways to do it without having that draft. So I think a lot of these drivers are going into the unknown unless they put their own practice in, throughout the week, kind of in their own private sessions. But it's definitely the nerves have got to be high because, again, it just takes one mistake. You got here, you say you throw away the first lap to kind of build speed for that second one. You get in the wall a little bit on that last lap. It invalidates it. Next thing you know, you could have been going for thinking about racing for pole position to racing just to get into the race. So let's see how this all unfolds. I'm sure it's going to be super close when the times all come on the leaderboard.
As each driver going to be given 2 laps to put down their fastest time and 5 minutes to do so. You touch the wall, you touch the grass, that can invalidate your lap time. And we've seen drivers miss out on these races by invalidating their lap times by grazing the wall, making a misstep, and it's very easy to do so. We've had 5 races, 5 different winners. We've also had 5 races and 5 different pole sitters. Let's see if one of them can maybe double down on that factor. Rob Lowell's gotten a pole so far, as well as Jim Ott, Scott Simley, Grant Humphrey, and Johnny Barker. Will we see a new driver that is on top of the board? It's Derek McDonald, who is one of the drivers that's been struggling with qualifying time, Zach, but he's found some speed now for the 72 to start out qualifying.
Great to see that for Derek. Yeah, like you said, he's been right at the edge of the cut line for a couple weeks now. So to put himself at the top of the board right now, he's got to breathe a sigh of relief, but these times are going to be changing as the second laps are starting to come through. Bryce Bitton up to the top spot is now Scott Simley up to second. It's going to be wild to keep up with this here for a moment as everybody's second lap start to come filing in.
And there's Maddox Beard in the 08, who's going to be the new pole sitter currently holding on. We still have a good gaggle of cars that are still waiting to put in their first times, but 34 have already set their qualifying pace in. And one of the drivers that is on the outs that I'm concerned about as times are slowly knocking in, Eric Jensen, one of those drivers that's trying to bounce his way up, is Brett Hahn, Isaiah Sutherland. Great times for the both of them, but Zach, that bottom cut line, we're starting to get a clearer picture as only 37 have set a time in so far. And it's Colin Trebass that is one of those I'm concerned about. He's 37th on the board and has finished up both of their lap times.
I'm starting to get a little concerned for Rob Lowell. He's 35th on the board, both laps completed, and it's at 31.64 right now for him. So times from Chad Coleman, from Calatoni, some of these other drivers could really be important here. Is now Beasley, he's going to jump right behind him in the 37th spot, but the times are coming through, and even Ducharme, I mean, the first lap's not the fastest, but I think these second ones, if they don't show some pickup, it could be scary times for a few.
First driver out, going to be Colin Trebass, as they are 41st on the board, and the only driver is that already completed both laps. You know that they can change very quickly because Keith Ayers did a 1-lap dash and is up to 11th. After being on the cut line, other drivers are starting to pile in on their lap times, and Zach, Johnny Barker is out of this thing, and now it's going to be Kevin D. Brown.
Oh.
Can he shock it as Anthony Calatoni to the top of the board with a 31.494, the only driver to hit the .4s.
And that puts Rob Lowe out. He's 41st on the board. Our race winner from Michigan, the 21, is out of this event.
And Derek McDonald is on the cut line. Thought maybe he had a good enough lap to stay in the running for a chance for the bracket, but he gets knocked out because Kevin D. Brown bounces from 44th up to 2nd, and the 4 drivers out: Derek McDonald, Rob Lowell, Johnny Barker, and Colin Trebass. Zach, that is a shocker to see some of those names out of this race.
That is wild. I had a feeling this would be the place, if any place on the schedule, where we could see, a huge upsets when it comes to getting into qualifying, just because of how close it is. I mean, if you look at it right now, the difference between getting in and getting out is, 3,000ths of a second. And again, they're only a tenth and a half off the pole position. So yeah, that just shows you every little thing matters.
And with that, of Derek McDonald out of this thing, Brett Hahn qualifying in 3rd, the 71 automatically is moving on in the in-season bracket challenge. Congratulations to that 71 team. As we have moved into the warm-ups, this is our time to cool down, get ready. It's about to be race time as well. Do a breakdown of how we've gotten to this point of the season. As the points, they've been shifting, they've been wandering, they've been going up and down on where drivers have been placed all season long. But Zach, the one consistent over the last few weeks, Mark Whitley, top of the board, and Grant Humphrey and Tyler Humphrey right up there as well.
Definitely consistent from the Humphrey brothers and Whitley. They've been great. Last week, of course, Coleman, he jumps himself up 6 spots into 4th there for him, so that is amazing for him. One of the biggest movers we had, of course, at least in our top 10 wise, is Christian Angel up to 10th. And I look a little bit farther down here, Isaiah Sutherland, he moved up 18 spots with his podium finish last week. So again, you brought it up, Sam, about the points, how big losses can be from starting at the back end or finishing the back end of the field to the front half. That just shows you how much you can gain and lose position wise week in and week out.
So much shifting, but again, it's the top 15 that move on into the chase, all based off of points. So there is a lot to earn throughout tonight's running. But how has the season been? How's the schedule been? We watch and cover a little bit of a semi-NASCAR schedule. Most of the races, besides road courses, we copy what NASCAR's doing up on the upcoming Sunday. And they are heading to Atlanta for Echo Park. So we're heading to Echo Park here tonight. And the next couple of races is going to be North Wilkesboro and Indianapolis. We will have a break July 30th before we come back for the short track stint, which is going to be a handful. Iowa, Richmond, New Hampshire before Daytona. Zach, that stint after our July break on the 30th, certainly going to be a rough one, but these next two, counting tonight, 3 races, we're still in the in-season bracket challenge.
Yeah, we get a little preview next week at North Wilkesboro for those short tracks, so we're going to preview, then we'll go to the giant famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but I'm excited for that short track part of the schedule, and then of course the rest of the schedule is great. But we even look at some of the pole winners and race winners we've had throughout the rest of the season. I look at Johnny Barker. He was on pole position here at Atlanta, the Echo Park Speedway, the 2008 version. Then last week's pole setter, Rob Lowell at Chicagoland. Both those drivers, this is how competitive this league is, folks, are not racing tonight because they didn't qualify into this race. So that just shows you got to be on top of your game here. If not, you are going to be going home and you're going to be sitting there losing a ton of points.
And so a lot of the conversation's been, how do you make it into this race? Do you aim for the pole, or do you just aim to make it in? And it looks like the aim to just make it in was already too tough of a task, as the times were so close in qualifying. But with the warm-up coming to a conclusion, this is our usual time that we're kind of look at qualifying. Where are drivers placed on track, and who do we think might be race winners to watch out for? It's our pick'ems that we have. And Zach, we now know our 40 that are in the race. I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, because I'm going to go with Christian Angel as my driver of note. That is going to be the 79 machine. We've seen the Harpoon Designs drivers look quick so far this season, and I think the 79 of Christian Angel, I think tonight might be the night to see that Harpoon's Design driver hit victory lane.
I like that. A lot. That's a great call, I think, from your side. I'm going to go with the driver who got a podium last week. I think a little bit of momentum carrying into here. He's also going to qualify 4th. I'm going to go with the 74 of Isaiah Sutherland. I think Isaiah is going to be the perfect blend here tonight of aggressive and just trying to, and missing the messes. So he's going to be aggressive, but he's going to miss everything, I feel like, tonight, hopefully. And you never know. We'll see that 74 victory lane.
And our third member of our crew, that's Robert Moyer Jr., pushing all the buttons, producing from the background. He'll go with last week's winner of Chad Coleman. Let's see if we can change up the fates. Can it be 6 races that we find our first driver to be a multi-time winner? We'll see if it's Chad Coleman, as those are your 3 drivers that we're saying to watch out for that could be race winners. But honestly, all 3 of them could be junked out of this race on lap 1. There is a lot of unknowns when you come to a track and a styled race like this. Every driver an opportunity to get into victory lane. You hope that you find your alliances, you find the drivers you can work with, and ultimately you need a little bit of luck to find yourself in victory lane at Echo Park. And we're hoping to see a good show here this evening. We've had fantastic ones already so far through the season. And I got a feeling tonight could be another special one to see here this evening. It's the 802 Next Gen Elite Series Season 1, Race 6 of the Georgia Peach 200 about to get underway as the warm-up concludes. All that's left is 130 laps, no stage break, 3 extra sets of tires in pit road, no fast repair, and to see who can get into victory lane at the end of the day. Let's see the 40 drivers that are risking it all for victory as up front, taking the pole and hoping that's where they can stay at the end of the day. The 84 of Anthony M. Calazzoni. What a charge there at the end. The only driver to hit the .4 markers. Right behind him, going to be seeing the 93 of Kevin D. Brown. Going to be seeing that 94 looking good. Brett Hahn, already by qualifying into this race, is qualified in the next round of the bracket challenge. Congratulations to the 71 team, with Zach's pick of the 74 of Isaiah Sutherland in 4th. The 08 of Maddox Beard going to be in the 5th place position, with newcomer in the 91 machine of Bryce D. Benton. Then in 7th, Tyler Humphrey. The Humphreys have been strong and consistent. Can he find the consistency here at the end? Let's find out and see. In 8th, it's the 97 of Jeff Pogo, with Logan Troyer in 9th. And finishing out our top 10, it's the 16 of Tyler Ducharme.
Starting in 11th, this is the 14 of Joe Hudson. Tim Rogers in the 81 is going to start in 12th. 13th is going to go to the 5 of Michael Wolf, with Keith Ayers starting in 14th. Johnny Wood Jr. going to start in 15th. And Jim Ott going to start in 16th. 17th is going to go to the 26 of Josh Parker. 18th is going to be the 90 of Steve Holmes. Last week's winner in the 8 is going to start 19 of Chad Coleman. And rounding out our top 20 is our points leader, Mark Whitney.
Going to go a little bit of rapid fire here. 21st going to be the 99 of Eric Jensen, with Christian Angel, my pick, in 22nd position. Jason Ayerson going to be in the 23rd place for the 64. Scott Simley going to be in 24th for the 33, with Steve Ritter in the 61 and 25th. The 1 is going to be going to see Brandon Gardner going to be in the 1 machine in 26th, with Dustin Coggins in the 44 and 27th. 28th is the 48 of Grant Humphrey, with Daniel Coldcroft in 29th, and finishing out our top 30 is the 17 of Richard Beasley.
31st is Chris Progar, and 32nd is going to be the 87 of David Glass. 33rd is going to be the 46 of Eli Raposa, and Kevin S. McDonald going to start in 34th. 35th is going to be Will R. Moore. Arabia Clayton going to start the 3rd, going to start in 36th. 37th is Timothy Parker. 38th is Steve Tucker, and our last 2 cars on the field in 39th and 40th is Devin McCaffrey and Matt Taylor.
It's only 1.5 miles in distance, but man, does it creep up on you quick when there's 40 names to list off. You kind of want to give everyone their own moments. But we'll try our best to talk about almost every driver here this evening, from the new ones that are making their debut race to those that are hunting for a championship hopefuls. Pace car is off. Our first super speedway style course is about to be underway, and it's Calazzoni, Brown, side by side as they enter the restart zone. We are green from the Georgia Peach 200 at Echo Park as the 40 drivers roar down into turn number 1.
And right now, that top line a little bit more collected. It's going to be the 93 of Kevin D. Brown getting the shove from the 74 of Isaiah Sutherland, as the inside of Brett Hahn in that second row tries to gather it up to push that leader, but everybody else looking to survive as we got 3 or 4 cars diving to the inside just to fall to the back. They know this game might just be about survival.
It really can be, and ultimately with 130 laps here tonight, a big wreck is looming at every corner. We honestly are going to be seeing a lot of new things here tonight. Everything that you've been saying no, do not do at every 1.5 mile course this season, of getting close to someone's rear end, giving a bump at times. That's what you have to do here tonight to be quick, and we're already seeing drivers trying to get in line to the inside row. Wasn't sure if the inside was going to be the more preferred or the outside row. It always feels like it changes when there's aero updates, especially setup updates on where drivers feel the most comfortable and where you can build the most speed. But Kevin D. Brown, Calazzoni, they look good up front, ripping the bottom.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Sam. It's always interesting to see here when we come to Atlanta what line is going to be preferred for that car, that set, that day. So let's see how this works out, because right now the inside looks strong, but that outside has been known to fight back strong here at Atlanta.
And with everyone so close to one another, already seeing a little bit of shimmying with drivers trying to utilize what we call side drafting. Zach, that's probably what we're going to see a lot here tonight, of drivers getting so close to one another, especially in the corners and the straightaways.
No doubt, you got to utilize that as much as you possibly can. That is such a tool here, and what you're pretty much doing, folks, if you don't understand what side drafting is, you hear people talk about it all the time. You're really just relying on the aerodynamics of the car coming off the front end you're trying to get up real close to someone so you can throw that air off your front end onto their spoiler. And pretty much that's just going to create some drag to slow that car down. And that's why they say pull back, you know. You really almost physically feel like you pull someone back when you get that side draft well. So that's going to be a huge topic, of course, of discussion. But right now, it is all about these opening laps, just filling it out and finding your friends and trying to build those relationships for later in the race.
Well, some of the drivers missed out on some opportunities as, oh no, Brett Hahn and multiple others wrecking on the backstretch, sideways across the field.
Big.
Everyone trying to come to a halt as multiple drivers are still piling in, even on the entry of turn 3. Just some jostling, some bad bumps, drivers trying to get down to the apron, and ultimately our first caution of the day on lap 5. And already seeing a couple of drivers with required damage. Jeff Pogo, one of those, but here will be your G-Stones replay of what brought out the caution. And Zach, it's just a bizarre moment off of 2.
Yeah, just a bizarre moment for sure, Sam. And I've already counted here on the back straightaway about 9 cars involved in this. And then there was about another 2 or 3, like you said, down in the 3 that I think were just trying to, get slowed up. And once they got around, kind of got into each other. So we'll take another look here again. You see that 71 is this third car on that bottom lane. He's got the yellow car right behind him off of 2 here. You're going to see it happening to the outside, and that's just a loose condition there, I think, for that car on the outside. And I've seen this happen before. You really get loose sometimes off of 2 and off of 4 with these cars, and it seems like that's going to be a case here tonight. So handling going to be another issue and a topic. And again, we talk about some of that aero griefing. You're pushing here at these places. You're right up against someone's bumper. So not only that, but it's just kind of taking air away from everybody, and it gets tough here sometimes, especially as the tires begin to wear. And you kind of had a wiggle there before that kind of upset that car.
Yeah, they'll just right on the back bumper. I mean, Isaiah Sutherland was pushing that 9 machine and was trying to make momentum forward. Ultimately, it backfired off the exit turn 2. Aggression could get rewarded later on, as you're just seeing everyone trying to hold on to the brakes, and Eric Jensen just slammed on both sides. Surprised we didn't see the 99 get required damage with the way his rear axles were being pushed by multiple different drivers, but the one that takes the most brunt of it, the 97 of Jeff Pogo, looks to be already out of the server and Zun required damage, too much damage to fix. So you hate to see that for Jeff Pogo, who, I mean, Zach, the first 2-3 races, that 97 was one of my favorites to circle up and say he's a top 10 driver every race we go to. But man, the last few weeks have been rough for the 97.
Yeah, they really have been for him. He has always had speed, but in these fields again, they're gigantic. It's just really about being in the wrong place at the wrong time sometimes in these racing ordeals. And here at Atlanta, there's not many places to hide, so you can't really miss a lot of things when that happens up ahead of you like that, especially early in the go, and you're just kind of riding along, and next thing you know, it is everything breaking loose, and you just got to try to make your way best through it. And unfortunately, I'd say more than likely you're going to be involved in it half the time here at Atlanta. So we'll see how they can rebound from that throughout the next weeks, but it is always a tough pill to swallow when you're out of the race in the first 10 laps.
Absolutely is, as also Jim Mott has a black flag. We'll wait and see if he's going to protest that, as all drivers have the ability to ask for their black flags to be removed. But after the race, if it is deemed that that black flag should not have been removed, you can get a hefty penalty after the race. As the admin box 1 to green is out, that means pace car lights are off. The field's getting ready to go back to green flag racing. And interesting note, everyone 21st on back went into pit road. Majority of them just for damage repair. A couple looked to be just topping off or seeing what the damage was like. But Zach, I like the call. Get an extra 5 laps of fuel under your belts and have a slight advantage over some of your competition that had to stay out under pacing.
I completely agree, especially if you're at that latter end of the field anyways. Just come on down, put the fuel in the car, gives you a little bit of strategy to play with. So we'll see if that has any effect here to help those drivers out. But looks like with everything getting all stacked back up, Kevin D. Brown, of course, and Calatoni up to the front 2 positions on the rows, and Sutherland there involved in that latest incident. He's going to restart in 3rd. So we'll see how these drivers go about this here with this pushing, because pushing in the corners is going to be a situation I think is talked about a lot tonight. You definitely don't want to do that too much, because you can see the issues that come up.
A little bit of flow state being posted out in chat. About to get ready. See the air flowing here for the field as we are about to go green. Kevin D. Brown, Anthony Calatoni, a little bit of swapping on who's in control for this restart. We'll see if they stay in line. Will there be a little bit of aggression that bounces people around as green flag is back out of the air for the Georgia Peach 200 from Echo Park. A little bit of jostling further on back in the field. But Isaiah Sutherland in the 74, great launch for himself and not allowing Calatoni to get in line with Kevin D. Brown. And it's the 74 just pushing the 93 forward.
93 getting a good shove there from that 74 to get him out front, like you said. And then it's going to be Calatoni jumping to the bottom on the back straightaway there to get in line with him. But now I had a thought there for a second to jump out to the outside, but seeing some new names up here. Of course, Tim Rogers leading the outside line. Also got Johnny Wood Jr., second car in that line. Also, Richard Beasley. I think Beasley has come from way on back. Yeah, P30 for him. So that is amazing to see him working his way forward as far.
The thing that helps with Beasley there is the amount of drivers that were caught up in that last wreck. It just enabled him to stay out. He stayed out of trouble, and now we're seeing the 17 up inside of our top 10. Another driver of note as up front, a little bit of jostling. The outside able to keep their momentum moving as Tim Rogers and as well Anthony Calatoni ripping the top. But another driver up there on the outside, fourth driver in line. That's the 44 of Dustin Coggins. Zach, he has had some hellacious wrecks so far this season, and he's open tonight. He's one of the drivers that makes it to the very end.
He definitely will be hoping for that. Yeah, he's had a tough season this season, getting caught up in a few of those big wrecks we've had. But we'll see how his night works here. Is right now the outside line working well, but all of them up into the wall, and that's something that happens. So you get a little tight, and that can lead to that. Is man, luckily Coggins can get it back going because D had Timothy Parker, I believe, all over the back bumper there. That could have been really, really dangerous as you see all those guys got up into that outside wall.
And now trying to get moving once again. Got to hear that crunching sound getting into the wall for Coggins, but rest of the field, they are continuing to motor on. Inside row looks to be the favorited place to be. Outside's usually where you want to go if you want to try moving forward, but with the lack of kind of cohesion of everyone moving forward, it looks to be the inside row is a safety net at this current time as Tim Rogers, Anthony Calatoni, as well as Johnny Wood Jr., they are making this outside lane work as Rogers in control. Now ducking to the inside, he'll move back up to the top. No, he actually wants to work with the 93's momentum. This is great stuff to see from the 81, who's coming off of missing out on a couple of races or has been caught up in some wrecks. It's been either you missed the race or you're wrecked out for the 81 these last few weeks.
Definitely in need of a good run there for Tim Rogers, but this track always so intense and so much about sometimes tire management, especially in the daytime condition like we have here today. I think you're going to see tires really start to matter, and that's where I think the inside line kind of prevails. You know, we see this outside line, they kind of enter the corner and kind of wash up the groove and kind of lose the grip as they go up the racetrack and kind of gather it as they go higher. But that inside groove just seems to always have a little bit more give, a little bit more easy on the tires where you're able to grip up a little bit better, in my opinion. And I think that's where you'll see this inside kind of prevail as the longer run goes. But this outside line can produce so much speed with the momentum you can build up.
Top 15 are those in this initial lead pack. There's a little bit of a gap going on with some of the drivers further on back, but here's the 94 of Kevin S. McDonald. Kevin trying to have a good run just like Derek was trying to do, but it didn't work out for Derek. Kevin able to have his run, but a trouble for a driver further on back, and that's going to be the 99 of Eric Jensen. He is spinning and sliding, and now in pit entry, a bizarre moment for the 99 as he's now trying to get back rolling. No black flags were given, but sliding through 3 and 4 and ultimately found his way into pit entry perfectly.
He lost that in the middle of the corner in 3 and 4 and actually didn't have no contact. I went back and looked at it, and that was just a big slide for Eric Jensen and a huge hit into the inside wall for him too, so that was tough for him to have. But looks like he will now be continuing down pit road, and looks like he'll try to get back on the racetrack, but going to be a loss of at least 1 lap and maybe 2 if he can't get at least hooked up with someone in the pack.
Well, it's seen a couple of schemes with the soda themes. I'm just kind of giving me flashbacks of the old Daytona July 4th days where you'd bring out the Pepsi, you'd bring out an, oh no, speaking about Pepsi air, he gotta hold on to the airs for that 42, drifting his way through 3 and 4. And every time I've been trying to talk about this Pepsi machine, something's happening on screen. As Keith Ayers is going to be now blinking for a second, but Zach, a bizarre moment. And it looks like the loose conditions that are similar to what we saw back at Texas, Atlanta a few weeks ago to start the season off. It is trickled over here to Atlanta again.
It is, oh, and look, right there. Again, another race car sideways, and that's, right there off the nose of Mark Whitley almost. So that was very, very close. And again, all these are no contact hits. There's nothing I've seen with contact so far, and that is just cars getting loose a little bit by themselves not only, but also I think just the packing of air as the run goes on and the tires start to heat up just makes things that much more serious. And I think this is going to be a syndrome that we're going to see for the majority of the day. I think one thing that can help, and we will as this run starts to go on and get better with this, as they lay rubber down, that grip level should start to move up, and we should start to see these cars stick a little bit better, especially rear end wise. So I'm expecting that to kind of fix up a little bit, but at the same time, with how loose we've seen them so far, it's going to be tough as Wood Jr. tighten up into the wall.
He went up to the outside wall. Calatoni drifted to the inside. They both got loose there, and now contact with the 44 into the outside wall is going to be seeing Johnny Wood, and Wood continues to stay on the outside, try to stay out of the way. But you could just sense we're just a handful of laps away from another caution with the ways that these vehicles are just not looking stable, and they are angry at the drivers.
These things are evil, Sam, and this is where I'm starting to really love this speedway, is when you get these handling issues. You really have to drive this race car. It gets very, very tough, and these cars are hard to save anyway, so you have to be kind of intuitive to put yourself in those positions, as they're going to make it 3 wide here. They say, why not? Alpha 2, and it looks like Tim Rogers is going to back out and slide in behind Sutherland for the time being, but that was close action there. But, man, it is such a place now, Sam, that we're starting to see it get so much more character. It gets kind of a little bit more about handling than even just these draft tracks. So I think it really plays a favor of this track, and it's kind of unique in itself.
I mean, it's given opportunities for some drivers that we just really haven't talked about to show their prowess at this style of course. Dustin Coggins looking good for himself in the 44. Had a couple of moments, but he is surviving on the outside, inside of the top 5. Also, you got to give credit to Timothy Parker on the fact that we're seeing some other drivers. The 18 has been running pretty well, as some of the favorites, they're stuck deep in the field or just in survival mode. As you're seeing our top about 13 to 14 are in this group. Then there's a little pods that are in line in the middle, and then there's a third pack that is kind of off in their own. That's 20th on back. That is looking just as dangerous as what our leaders were, but a lot more claustrophobic is this packing of drivers.
Yeah, this one, I was looking at it and I was like, oh, yeah, this is where we may see the incident if one comes out, because, man, they're all stacked up and there's cars like on both lanes kind of doing all different types of things. So we'll see how they can keep it together. It looks like Christian Angel is one of these cars in the front, that front 3 cars ahead of them. So that 79 trying to work his way forward, but just kind of caught right now in this smaller group, and it can be tough when you're in this situation. But sometimes it sells his own record in the background. Looks like they keep it straight though, but it's just a big stack up. I don't know who lost a bunch of time.
It was Eli Raposa on the outside. He got loose on the inner groove, just had a driver right on the rear end, lost it, came back up the track, clipped Josh Parker, and they were able to continue on. But a big blow for the 46 as he'll lose a major amount of time, but somehow we stay green.
I had another big slide too. Kevin S. McDonald in the 94. He was actually in that front grouping. He kind of went off in the 1 and 2 all by himself and just lost the rear end in the middle of the corner. No one even close to his back bumper. So again, I think it's just mostly a handling thing that is playing out for a lot of these drivers. As again, our top pack now back double filed up, and Dustin Coggins has found his way to the front with Calatoni leading the way on the outside groove.
Oh boy, Dustin better watch out. Big save from the 44 in the middle of the corner. He'll duck down to the apron and everyone scoots on by. You just want to cheer on these guys on how well they're running, but then they just find a way to go backwards. A huge save. I am shocked, baffled, and every moment is just clenching your fist, hoping that you don't see a wreck. But Zach, this is impressive to see on these massive saves, because this is a vehicle we have talked on religiously. It feels like you cannot save this car, and yet people are saving them.
That was exactly what I was going to say, Sam, is we need to give a round of applause to these drivers out here tonight, because so far there has been at least 5, 6, maybe 7 events where there could have been a driver spinning and then coming back up the track. But they just gather it up, they keep going, and they keep it together, man. That is so impressive from everybody, and just a great job from them. And just never stop driving. That's the one thing I'll say. You can't stop driving. You got to always stay trying to save it, even though this car, again, is on the side of things where people just, we've always said you can't save it. You still got to try it. So right here, our leaders have done a good job, but it looks like they've caught up to a little bit of a grouping here too.
A little bit of a group of drivers to work off of. That's going to be Eric Jensen, who was one of the initial drivers that spun out. He kind of started all this chaos about 11 laps ago, and now going to be ducking to the apron, sticking out of the way is the 99. Kind of love to see that from these lap cars. These vehicles can stay on the apron and go almost about 80% speed. And if you're already down on power, might as well get out of the way. Is Kevin D. Brown leading the charge, as well as Calatoni, Tim Rogers. You look at some of the guys that are just cracking inside of the top 5. That's the 91, Bryce Bennett. Zach, that guy was involved in the first wreck of the race on lap 5. You can also see some of the damage that's still on the 91, and he is still running pretty well in this lead pack.
Yeah, I can clearly remember that yellow car, yellow 91, being involved in that wreck, and that is a great recovery from Bryce. He put in an excellent qualifying run, so knows how to get around Atlanta well, and he's been able to position himself well enough to put himself into this front pack. And I think if you're a driver right now, that's really all you can ask, is to be in this front 14 cars, because this just gives you an opportunity, if anything, to be in position when we get to a pit stop to pit with these guys. You want to always be in that front grouping. It always helps. But if anything, if you're not in this front group, you at least want to be in a group. And I think that's what's forming up back here is the second one. We'll see if they can start to maybe run down those leaders. Right now, actually, lap time wise, they're kind of matching, if not better sometimes. So we'll see if they can get that gap down. It's about 4 seconds from Angel to Humphrey.
They're trying their best. Also want to give note to one of the drivers that's on screen right now. I believe that is going to be the 32. Yes, on our ticker board. That's Steve Tucker, who runs in 16th place. On their car, it is the number 0. So on what's on the car and what's on our ticker, different. So the driver made a slight mistake for Tucker, but he is still running inside of the top 20, which big plus to have for yourself if you're just on the track at this current moment.
That's for sure. Always a plus to be going around the track still and on the lead lap and in a group like this. So we'll see how it works out for Steve Tucker for the rest of the night. And that team we'll take an onboard here with one of our past winners this season, as Tyler Ducharme. This man has been so quick each and every track. Kind of, again, got caught up into this second group. We'll see how he's able to, work his way and see if maybe he can help out a little bit. But, man, right up the back bumper of that car ahead, that can get a little bit hairy.
And Tucker will bounce to the outside of the 0 machine on screen, 32 on our ticker board. But we do need to move up to our leaders, because they have decided let's go 2 by 2 by 2 all the way through. And it's going to be Kevin D. Brown leading the outside, Tim Rogers leading the inside groove, and side by side they continue to race on. But Zach, this is the point where I was curious about. 35 laps in, we've had one caution, we've seen a little bit of this heat cycle burrow through, and so drivers are now in management mode. The lap times, when you go to a super speedway, you're not expecting them to really have a true fall off, but there is a fall off that we are distinctly seeing from the drivers as fast laps as they put it down compared to what they're running currently.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, we're definitely seeing a good bit of fall off. I mean, about a second, which, in some other intermediates, we're seeing some great action there with Calatoni kind of looking to the outside of Kevin D. Brown every there a couple moments. But, back to what I was saying is, the other intermediates sometimes we go to, we're only seeing, half a second, maybe 6 to 8 tenths of fall off. We're seeing a clear about a second here tonight. I mean, even some drivers were down into the 2970s. Those guys are clearly over a second already falling off. So this is impressive to see the tires fall off this much, and it just shows you, again, they're having to drive so much more differently than they were right when they take off, and I think that just makes the racing that much better around this track.
Well, for all those that are just joining us, well, welcome to the racing action. Less than 100 laps to go from the Georgia Peach 200 from Echo Park. You're watching the 802 Next Gen Elite Series, race 6 on the schedule. And we are at Atlanta, drivers side by side, and we're just crossing our fingers, hoping that we continue to stay green, because there has been a lot of chaos of drivers losing the rear ends. And watching this field right now, you know, the movement on the outside, every time you see a driver close in extremely close to the driver ahead of them on entry or in the center of the corner, that front driver you're nervous about on if they're going to lose the rear end or not and go around the mid-back point. They are still about 3 seconds off of between 15th to 14th, so there's still a gap there that's waiting to close in. But there is no stage break. We are racing this thing to the end if we stay clean and green. And Zach, I think that's the portion that might be hurting that second pack. It might be causing them to feel a little bit more antsy, is the knowing that there is no absolute caution that's going to save you here tonight.
That's exactly right, Sam. Yeah, there is no caution to save you there, so that would be a major issue for these guys. And the one thing I will say, they were about 4.5 back at one point from 14th. As Will Moore has lost about a half a second to the group ahead, but still, that second group only about 3.6 back now. So they have slightly made up some time, and watching some of their lap times, grand up here, some of these guys, they've been running in the 60s and the 70s on the lap times. That would gain them a couple tenths a lap if they're able to continue that.
And if you're also curious about what's going on with the mid-season bracket, currently, this was the round of 8. 8 drivers entered in. 2 were not able to make the race action. That's Jeff Gilmore, as well as going to be Derek McDonald. Both are bounced out, and that was on the right side of the bracket, meaning Chad Coleman, Brett Hahn will be dueling it out next week at North Wilkesboro to see who will be racing for the championship race at Indianapolis, as starting to see a little bit more movement happening in the lead pack. And it's the 8 machine of Coleman himself. Knows that he's locked in the next round of the bracket. Man, he is being shifty right now on track, and he's got to be careful. Yes, Coleman has won. It's bounced him up to 4th in points, but a bad day could bounce him very close to the 15th place cut line if he gets a little bit too wound up with excitement with some of these big moves.
That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, we've already talked about the points. It's a merry-go-round when you can gain that much and lose that much. So you really want to make sure you can have consistency on your side, I'd say, is the big thing for this season. Is old Tim Rogers hold on to her buddy Calatoni, giving him a huge shove as these drivers not laying off the bumpers too much, but doing good enough right now. But definitely got to be one of those nights where you have to make it all about surviving and then hopefully be able to have a chance to fight for a win at the end.
And Calatoni as well as Tim Rogers both over the radio giving a sigh of relief to one another through that corner, but it isn't getting any easier. Calatoni's just hoping to see Tim Rogers break away, get a little bit of a bigger gap to work with, because if they stay this close, that 91 will be in danger in that orange and camo machine. But it's going to see Chad Coleman up front, loving the fact that he's up there. Richard Beasley as well, having a great running. Your biggest mover currently out on track is Timothy Parker in the 18, that teal machine on the inside. That driver is up 30 positions from where they started, qualified 37th, kept their nose out of trouble, and trying to stay down low as long as possible to stay in the top 10. And that second pack, Zach, they've only gained 2 to 3 tenths since the last time we mentioned them. That's not a great sign, but at least a couple of them can go further than our lead pack because they did top off on fuel when they decided to get some of that damage repaired.
Yeah, it's tough to see this second pack like kind of losing time now even a little bit, because I watched their lap times. They had, the likes of the 1, the 16, a couple of these cars lined up, and they were running 30.6, 30.7, and our leaders are running really about 31 flat to a 31.9 pretty much consistently. So if you were able to run those 6s and 7s, they could have really made some great ground up there. But they kind of shook things up. The line caught up on the outside. They went around the top of them, and it kind of just changed the whole playing field. And right now, their lap time's only 31 flat. They're actually losing about 2 to 3 tenths now. So they got to really figure it out. And it's just really, you can't fight each other too much here. You got to really just put your best pushers out there. Let the people who can pull the pack around do the best they can.
And hope that the drivers that are behind you are willing to stay at least close enough to where you're not being a hazard or a detriment to those around you, but at least closing in that air so that you're going as fast as possible. Well, to everyone that's out in chat, thanks for joining with us. If you've got a driver or team that you're rooting for, let us know if you've got the ability to type in chat. We love to see who you are rooting for. I know we've had a couple of fans last week when Maddox Beard was having a running. A lot of Devin McCaffrey fans were cheering on that patriotic schemed pirate machine who's in the second pack. And luck can say that 29 did win scheme of the night last week and was gifted those 10 iRacing credits. So congratulations to the 29 pirate machine of Devin McCaffrey. But I'm curious about who that are, maybe this is your first time watching. We'd love it if this was your first time to just say hello here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Zach, it's been a pleasure to give the call. It's been fun for us. Back to 3 races a week, calling Monday night with the Trinity Racing League, Tuesdays with a BRB Sundance Pro Series and their ARCA car. And then here on Thursdays, the 802 Next Gen Elite Series. It's kind of fun to be back in the swing of things instead of just 1 race a week.
Oh, no doubt. We love this here, man. And what great leagues we got, too. I mean, we got so many characters, so many great drivers, so many great admins and owners that, bring great sponsors, everything along with it, and great viewers like all y'all that tune in. So, again, thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure so far to cover this 802 Cup Series with Robert and Sam, and we can't wait to continue to bring more of this. But I think before, we get to pit stops here, Sam, these guys are going to have to figure out, where their positioning is going to be. When do they want to come down? And that's the decisioning of talking to all these drivers and talking to themselves. Now the question is, I think they're probably going to try to make this a one-stop. Usually Atlanta here, you can go upwards of about 65 laps. So if you can do that, it should be right in the realm of making this a one-stop.
And we just got a super chat from Rob Lowell. Rob, we're so gutted that you weren't able to make the race, but he says, hey guys, greetings from race control. Was a bit slow tonight in qualifying. Lowell, love the fact that it is a perform to or go home, and we certainly have seen a lot of shockers. I feel like each week there's one driver we're expecting to for sure be in, and they're missing out. But thank you so much, Rob Lowell, for the $10 super chat. That goes directly to us, the broadcast channel, and we appreciate that so much. But qualifying was dangerous, but it's time to see how the lead pack can handle a little bit of traffic. Got ourselves some lap cars scattering up, down, and it's Erison. It's going to be Clayton the third, and they are moving to the outside. That's good to see, but the 30, just not enough space, and somehow the field is squeezing on by.
Oh, man, yeah, that is close there. Everybody's doing a good job, and Arabia is keeping it up against the wall. Great job from everyone all around. That could have been a disaster, and for now, we keep it somewhat suitable. But I will say they're going to have a second pack they're going to have to do it with, so be prepared for your next time. You did first on your first test of getting lapped, and you're hoping to kind of hang on to this pack, hopefully, and not have to deal with that second pack. But if you do, you at least know you can make it through it.
And the big thing that's helping with the fact that there was lap cars to get by, that second pack has gained over a half a second now. There's about a now just 2.8 second difference between the end of the front pack to the front of the second. And you can already see with also the lap cars in between, this is going to be helping out that group. Here's the gap difference between Will R. Moore and Tyler Ducharme on the fact that they're trying to close in the gap. When it's within 1 second, that's when you got your best chance to utilize the draft, reel in the drivers ahead of you. Well, man, Zach, it is still a long road for those drivers from 14th to 15th to finally close in that difference.
They just got to keep, going at it, because right now, lap time-wise, they're a tenth to, if not 2 tenths faster each and every lap. And I got to give credit, Tyler Ducharme, Josh Parker, Steve Tucker, those first couple 3 cars, and, Tyler Humphrey, everybody's got kind of lined up, kind of working together. Nobody's really trying to race each other, and it's producing lap time, and that is what they got to do. So, again, 30.58 that time by the lead car of that group from Tyler Ducharme, Chad Coleman, our leader up front, 30.74. So you're seeing upwards of almost 2 full tenths there. And again, like Sam said, as soon as they get within a second, they're going to start rolling. And even in my opinion, once they get within about a second and a half to 2 here, they're going to even start picking up a little bit even more pace. So I would not be surprised if we see one of the fastest lap times of the day come from one of these cars here in the next 10 laps or so when they catch up.
Slowly but surely finding the difference, finding a way to get up front. But this lead pack, Zach, another thing of note, when will we see the shifting of getting in line? All drivers have been reminded by race control, you have to pit on the backstretch heading into turn 3. You cannot pit going off the exit turn 4. That used to be the traditional way, but Zach, that is a major difference, and that's going to force the majority of the field to show their hands that they're pitting sooner than maybe they would do previously in old races.
I completely agree. Yeah, this is a place where you kind of, you used to almost wait almost till you get the 3 to kind of let people know, so you kind of catch them off guard. But it's going to be hard to catch people off guard here when you're pitting on that back straightaway. So we'll see how they plan it out. Maybe some will, try to be a little sneaky with it, but you got to be able to get it woed down, not run over somebody, because I think when we do come to pit road, you're going to have so many cars coming together that it's going to be quite an act. As that second pack, just as I suspected, lap time's starting to pick up, Sam. They're only a second and a half back now.
So close to finding the difference. More drivers exiting out of pit road after just trying to stay out of the way. One of the drivers of note, shockingly, with being involved with the first caution of the day, also under pacing of that yellow, got a black flag. Jim Ott had to serve a penalty, was heavily damaged. The 4 machine was on the bracket challenging Mark Whitley. Whitley is currently in the lead group in 12th, and the 77, not completely safe where he runs right now, but at least trying to stay out of trouble. Other battles that are happening is the 16 of Tyler Ducharme going up against the 9 of Tyler Humphrey. Those two drivers are also within a margin of one another. They're actually working together in this pack. Is the 9 and the 16. Whoever finishes the best between those two drivers that are now side by side are going to move on to the final 4. And it's going to be interesting to see how this bracket concludes, especially in the fact that Chad Coleman, Brett Hahn have already advanced forward on their side of the bracket. It's the left side of the bracket that we still don't know who's moving on. Will it be Mark Whitley, Jim Ott, or one between those two? That's going to be one duel where one of those two moves on. And then the other duel is Ducharme versus Tyler Humphrey. Some great battles in the in-season bracket.
And while all that was transpiring and we were watching those guys, I don't know what they're doing. I will just be frank. They just ruined their chances of getting within a second. They're 3 seconds back now. They just started all racing as soon as they got within a second and a half of the car ahead of them and ruined any shot now. I mean, they're literally racing. So, yeah, I cannot question what they were thinking there with the racing back there.
And this is just one of those things, Zach. It's just one driver has an instinct of, all right, I want to be the one that leads us now to the pack. I'm going to have that chance. And now you're further back than you were 20 laps ago. All of that hard work, all the advantages of having the lap cars influence the lead group, throw it all away. I think what also is hurting them is this lead pack. They're now starting to get in line, which is a telling sign pit road is about to be calling.
That it is, yeah. I think it's going to be heating up here. Of course, I think you want to get a few laps past 65 to give you some wiggle room there, because that'll put you right in the realm of making it easy to 130. But we had that one caution so far to kind of bring it all to a halt and kind of save a little fuel. But I'm interested to see how far they can go here, Sam, because it could get close, and maybe some of these guys have been planning some fuel saving that we could see rear its head right here in these first pit stops.
And we know that pit stops, not everyone's going to get a clean entry, clean exit, clean pit road run up to their box. All these drivers that are in the lead pack, all the drivers in the second pack, third pack, they're going to see some split up. These groups are going to get smaller. How can you maximize that speed when you're in a smaller group, and how can you be the ones that stay together the best is what's going to help you at the end of the day. And then also, how well is all these drivers going to recognize you're now going to be on fresh tires. There's going to be the cold, the hot cycle that you're dealing with, the wear and tear, a weird transition that we had after just 5 laps into a run. You're going to have to deal with all that again on top of having a pit stop. That's going to be the fun that we're getting ourselves ready for. Again, they have to pit heading into turn number 3. And Jat, we do want to say congratulations to Chris Muse, who sadly missed out on this week, but congratulations on the anniversary week that you're having. Happy 18 years, and I hope to see you out on track as well, as this has been a wild back and forth of drivers surviving, not making it to the end. It certainly has been something, Zach, as over the radio, some drivers are saying they're heading to pit road.
Lap 67 here on the board. And this would put you in the range of, over halfway. And I'm not surprised to see some of them pitting, but I would like to have a little wiggle room just in case, of course, you get a caution for some green-white checkered. So we'll see all who come down. But a car spins. Kevin S. McDonald coming on the pit road. He was all by himself. He is spun out, though, on the pit road entry.
And he was just trying to pit all on his own and just locked up randomly. I think it might have been a misshift to trying to shift down. As Kevin D. Brown,
all by himself.
Was pitting by himself. Why would you pit by yourself? But that's what Brown does.
I'm wondering, Sam, he was a driver that led kind of early in that first part of the run. I'm wondering if maybe he used a little bit more fuel just by being a lead car there for a little too long. Maybe when he was in the pack drafting with others, he was not, laying off the throttle. Maybe he was taking those runs and using that fuel and burning it. That could have been an issue because now you're seeing more and more come down this time while others who have probably been pedaling a little bit have saved enough fuel to go longer. Look, that's a mistake from Rogers there. He goes above the line. I think that's going to be a penalty, wouldn't it?
We're going to have to wait until he heads into pit road. That's when they'll serve the penalty to the 81 if there is one. I know the pit road entry can sometimes be a little finicky on when it gives a black flag at those spots. But looking at it, and it looks like it is clear for the 81. He is graced by the racing gods. But here we go, another pack heading into pit road.
Yeah, he was graced for sure with that because that could have been an issue for him. But seeing some others come to pit road, looks like Johnny Wood Jr. He's going to lead him now with Scott Simile, Mark Whitley, Isaiah Sutherland, Christian Angel, Dustin Coggins, and Brandon Grand. They're coming to pit road. So some fast cars coming here this time, and it was more towards the back half of that front group. As now, let's see what Coleman, Beasley, and Progrard do.
There we go, saying over the radio, they're heading into pit road. And there's that difference I was talking about. Who's willing to be aggressive? And Coleman just shipping it into the corner compared to everyone else that was backing off in the middle of the straightaway. And that's the difference of trusting your brakes, practicing your pit entry, and already seeing a couple of drivers having their moments. What are you seeing on your end, though, Zach?
Timothy Parker goes around, and same does Matt Taylor. There's going to be a caution on the Speedway. There's no way there's not. As they're trying to get it back going, they will because they're on the pit road now, rolled back down. We stay green, but that was a wild scene. Matt Taylor was parked against the outside wall.
Just nowhere to go for some of these drivers, but yet somehow no caution. And it went from bizarro world with those couple of laps after our last restart of drivers just spinning out every which way to now no caution thrown in that moment in time. And now Timothy Parker trying to get service done. But Zach, his vehicle not looking great even after getting all that service done.
Definitely not. Yeah, that car is still looking a little bit hurt. Is look right there. You have Josh Parker coming to pit road and Tyler Ducharme, Steve Tucker, Tyler Humphrey, and continue on for the time being. And those were some of the drivers that did pit under the caution and top off on fuel. So we are seeing some of the benefits from that. They've gone now 70, on lap 73 here, but it's lap 67 of their run. So they should be having to pit, I would say, within the next 2 to 3 laps here from what we've seen from some of the others.
Is Josh Parker going to be making his own pit stop on his own? But for those that have already pitted, currently being led by Chad Coleman, Richard Beasley, the aggressive pit entry rewards greatly to the 8 and the 17 team as they are leading the pack of drivers that have already made their pit stops. Everyone else, though, on track, we're still waiting on when you're going to make those final stops, as radio action is still out of drivers stating when they're heading into pit road. And here we go, Ducharme, as well as Steve Tucker, as well as Tyler Humphrey. They heading into pit road, as well as Joe Hudson. Josh Parker's leaving pit road, and that will finish out our pit cycle for these drivers.
That it will, Sam, and this will cycle it through, like you said. But this is going to be interesting to see where some of these guys can, if they can hold on to this front pack and cycle through, because again, you can make up that difference sometimes by just coming in and out of pit road. But like you said, the aggressive entry of Coleman pays off for him and Beasley. Same for Progar. Those three were some of the longest to stay out there of this front group. They position themselves very well now, because no worries with fuel with them. They can lead this pack pretty much full to the end.
And driver that is outside of the top 15 cut line in points entering tonight, needed a good run, also was challenging in the in-season bracket. Jim Ott. Zach, race one, I thought Jim Ott was going to continue on with some great runnings positions, but since race one, it has gone up in smokes, and so will tonight. Blown engine for the Vor. He is in pit road, had to take a tow, and that will be Mark Whitley, most likely moving on in the bracket challenge, which would leave us with just one duel left with the rest of this race going, of Tyler Ducharme or Tyler Humphrey. They're the last two to see who's moving on to the Final Four.
We'll have to see how that works out with them, because they have come out not too far away from each other out off of pit road. So they'll be with right now within only a position of each other. So this could get very, very interesting when it comes down to the end, because they've also placed themselves about 4 seconds off of that front group too. So we'll see if any headway can be made to catch up. But right now, we have at least 10 cars breaking away from the field.
Trying to break away, and we'll take a short little break as well. It's been a fun race so far into the second half. Can we stay clean and green, or will we find issue? As we've got ourselves a small little break to give you some time to get to know one of our major sponsors of G-Stone Motors. They're out in the Midbury, Vermont area. Go check them out today. Remember, you're not just a customer, you're family. We'll be back right after this break.
Admin Box is built by iRacers for iRacers, for use in league and hosted races.
Connected to iRacing simulation.
The goal? To make race control as easy as possible. Each admin box features pre-programmed commands, no key binding. Get your discount code and go to adminbox.com.
Motorsports and racing cars is a big part of the heritage here at G-Stone Motors. Todd and I have been racing each other for years. I love the one-on-one competition. When it comes bottom line, we're all behind each other and support each other with everything we do. I think that says a lot about our company's culture. I'm Vince Quinville, Service Manager at G-Stone Motors.
G-Stone Motors, your family Ford dealership, Route 7 South, Middlebury, Vermont.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 802 Next Gen Elite Series on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Radio action for the driver has been an interesting one. I know we talked about it happening about 20 laps ago as, oh boy, trouble. Driver's going to be blocking up between one another, blinking action. Driver's also slamming on the outside wall. That's Timothy Parker, who's just out of sorts, and that just completely destroyed the front pack of 11 drivers, now cutting into two. You got a group of 6, you got a group of 8 trying to figure out how they want to race around one another, and all from a little bit of a driver blinking, being on top of each other. And luckily we stayed green, but that was a bizarre moment that we just saw.
That was very, very bizarre. And I tell you what this has done, though. That second grouping around like Tyler Ducharme, Steve Tucker, Tyler Humphrey, with that kind of upsetting of those cars and losing that speed, that's kind of brought them into this group. Almost as Coleman up front, he might have had an issue there in the 3. He got big loose and he kind of gathered up. So we're having all types of issues here. This is going to bring us not only back to more than just 10 cars, this is going to bring us upwards of about 13 cars here in the front, 13 lined up now.
I mean, this is around that time that we saw the bizarre just drivers were getting loose. It was about a 5 to a 10 lap window where everyone looked out of control. Even when you looked like that driver should have been stable and fine, they would just randomly lose the rear end in the center of 3 and 4. And just a loss of either, I wouldn't say there was a loss of a mental, just the car looks angry after you get about 9 to 8 laps of green flag running under these tires. It becomes unknown, and you just got to brace for impact if your vehicle is going to snap loose.
You really do. It's interesting, Sam, because like you said, kind of happens in the same window we've seen before, and it seems like if you get past a certain point and the fuel starts to burn out of the car, it seems like it might help out a little bit. So I can't really imagine what they're going through, but it definitely seems like this car just kind of all of a sudden wakes up and says, I do not want to keep the rear end tires on the track, and it just becomes really difficult for at least 10 to 15 laps. So we'll see how everybody navigates it, because I've seen it already, a lot of people lose.
Even some drivers further on back snapping loose, one of those being Steve Ritter that went for a ride as the 5 machine of Michael Wolf going 2 laps down for the 5 machine, who is our cutoff driver in 15th position. Only one top 5, one top 10 for the 5 machine so far this season, and this is not the race you were hoping for. I'm curious for the mindset of a lot of these drivers with the ways that we have seen this car react this season, as now bouncing the outside, making the run forward is Kevin D. Brown. But Zach, I'm curious if maybe there was a mental thought for the field of this could be a Wreckfest event. How do we want to position ourselves to make it to the end? Because we saw on that first lap how many drivers dropped to the end, and Anthony Calatoni, huge save for the 84 on the inside, right behind our camera shot, as they'll stay 3 wide for now. Calatoni will stay the inner groove, and that's the front pack. Usually the next lap, someone in the second group goes for a ride, and it just continues on. If drivers are expecting yellows to be thrown, how much all of this shifting and drivers saving their cars is just throwing off some drivers' mentals of how they thought this race was going to finish out here this evening.
I got to give everybody, again, such a round of applause for just saving the race cars, man. I mean, we've seen countless times, numerous times, maybe even upwards of 5 to 6, 7 cars we've seen get exactly sideways, just like that is Beasley. He looks like he might be having the same issue. Oh, he luckily gathers it up because Progar was all over his back bumper. But, man, nobody has fully spun the car, and that has been amazing to see.
Nobody's fully spun it. We've only lost 3 drivers here tonight. That's Jeff Pogo on lap 5 during our first caution. David Glass attempted to get back out on track, but just was too heavily damaged. And then Jim Ott here under the last 20 laps has decided to call it an evening. But this has been a hold your breath evening. I hope everyone's been enjoying it so far, because we honestly are in constant panic and anxiety of who will be the next driver that might lose the rear end, might go for a ride and have to save the machine. As Johnny Wood Jr. at one moment in time during this race was in the outside wall, was pushed up there, now leading this thing on the outside with Will R. Moore in the Coca-Cola 43. Right behind him, Scott Simley's there. You also have the lap car of Tony Parker, who's in the wall wrecked, and now is helping. Oh no, there's Will R. Moore. Around he goes, and there's the caution we've been waiting for, as Ducharme was also involved.
Boy, somehow, actually, Ducharme, he got into the wall and then somehow missed it. I don't know how he missed that, but yeah, that was wild there. The 43 loose off of 2, and I was watching Johnny Wood Jr., who was ahead of him. He kind of lost the nose, washed up the racetrack there off of 2. The 43 went to follow him, and when he followed him, he just kind of got a little bit too close to the wall and just lost the rear end. So we'll see that here, Sam, but that is, again, a common thing we've seen here tonight, and it looks like Coleman was one of the other drivers who took a little bit of a hit there also.
Well, talk about shockers and how they're having good runs. The commentator curse has no mercy, I guess, here tonight. Follows up. There's the wall, and there's the contact that spins him around. Coleman gets good contact. A couple of other drivers getting some good blows. And then here's where I was most nervous. A lot of smoke plumed up, and that's visibility that's kind of hard for the field to see. But luckily, everyone avoiding the 43 and no extracurricular contacts were made after the initial runs. There's the blow for the 12 getting in there, and everyone else avoiding on through.
Wow, what a job there from Tyler Ducharme. got in the wall a little bit. As he got on the brake, it just lost the nose, of course, with that race car, and just narrowly got by there. And unfortunately, I think it was Logan Troyer in the 12. He caught that good piece of that there, and that really hurt that front end of that car. So Logan Troyer going to have a lot of damage to get fixed as we come to pit road, Sam, and get service done on our cars. No surprise to see people coming down here. I think a lot of them going to be wanting these tires. They know how much grip matters.
They know grip matters, but this also puts you right back into the cycle we were just in, which means these final, 40 laps that we're going to have, 35 laps we're going to have for this race, it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be a mess. The question is, how do you want to drive through this field? 28 drivers on the lead lap. We might have ourselves 29 with some of the Lucky Dogs awards that could be given out, but if there's only 28 drivers, that is still a large majority of the group that's going to be still racing. A lot of guys that have gotten loose are still in this race. There's a lot on the line as we've lost another driver so far here this evening. That's going to be Jason Erickson, who's going to be calling it a night in the 64. But Zach, this certainly, the timer of this caution, you're good on fuel and tires to the end of this race if we stay clean and green. That's the question of mine. Can we stay clean and green?
Yeah, that is the question. And the thing with pitting there, we had enough fuel already in these cars to make it from where they were at with where everybody pitted. I'm interested to see, did we have really anybody out there elect to not put fuel in the car? Maybe put just a few gallons in the car, because again, that fuel in the race car, folks out there, it can really affect the balance of these race cars. And from the past, previous stock cars, pretty much your Xfinity, your Arca, your truck car here on iRacing, anytime you don't put fuel in the car, you're always going to be a little bit tighter. It just is how the common tradition of those cars are. I will say, this next gen car, you can have that same trend of tightening up the race car by not putting fuel in it. But also, this next gen car can have some weird characteristics too, because this car has a diffuser underneath the car. Anytime you take fuel out, you're raising the rear end up. You raise that diffuser up a little bit too high, you're going to be a little bit looser. So it is one of those catch-22 things that you got to be knowing what the car is going to do by putting the less fuel in it. But I do think if you know that is a balance tool for you that will work, that may be a critical thing here, just to give you a little bit more stability for this little bit of a shorter run here, so to say, to the end.
A little bit of confusion on where Will R. Moore is supposed to be placed, as it's telling him to stay behind the pace car but in front of the field. So an awkward spot for the 43. We'll see if admins are going to extend this or let this run through, as we have been given the admin box 1 to green. So we're going green this time by, unless there is a change up from the admins here to extend this running. But Zach, I'm not seeing any extension. This is just going to be one of those very awkward restarts where our lap car's ahead of the field, unless we see Will R. Moore get out of the way, and he will not. So here we go. The Georgia Peach 200. Awkward start here. We are green, and it's the lap car. Will R. Moore wheel spinning in front of the field. That's going to lead the charge.
We'll see what he does here. Looks like he goes low to the inside. Will he stay on the bottom, or will he go to the apron? Looks like he's going to fight to try to stay on that lead lap here, and this is going to make things very interesting.
Now going to be 1 lap down is Will R. Moore. He was hoping to get that lucky dog spot, but because of all the spinning around that he had, not going to be the case. We're going to be 3 wide heading down into turn number 3, and Beasley saw an opportunity, and the 17 dashes to the inside, trying to clear his way for the lead position. Not going to be the case, and it's Brown that will lead that lap. But man, are they still in chaos mode and mentally trying to just hold steady, because we're 3 wide, even for position, battling back for 6th place.
Scott Simley right in the mix.
Oh, what a move by Josh Parker, which spooked Simley up into Calatoni. They hold on for now, but those types of moves, if you spook that middle driver, that could be chaos that they somehow survive out of. And Simley is uncomfortable, and the 33 is heading backwards.
He's now luckily able to get ahead of, looks like, Steve Tucker in that 32 machine up ahead of him, so able to slot in for the time being. But Josh Parker, big aggressive move there he made. This is going to be now a new playing field. We've got new names from that second pack that weren't able to get caught up before. Now they're up into the mix. How are they going to play into this fold?
We're talking about a second pack. That's going to be led by Devin McCaffrey as well as Coggins, Whitley, Grant Humphrey. They're about a second and a half off. The difference between 20th back to 19th. So we're already seeing a little bit of jostling, but up front, oh, it's Tyler Ducharme getting spun around. Hard contact for the 16 machine. And that could be the calling sign for the 9 of Tyler Ducharme to move on in this bracket, as Tyler Ducharme required damage for the 16.
Ducharme making the aggressive move, going 3 wide, and unfortunately, that 3 wide squeezes together right at the entry of the corner as Progar on the outside kind of comes down a little track. You know, the 16's on the door of the 75, just a little bit, not enough space given, and that turns the 16 across the nose, and next thing you know, we are back to yellow.
Back to a caution, back to a reset. And Chris Progar just a little off the nose. And there goes the 16, just that natural peaking aspect, but also Progar, he was trying to side draft to stay there, but there just wasn't enough space for him to force that type of a move when you're already 3 wide.
Definitely really close for sure already right there on that entry, and like you said, it kind of squeezes together there naturally as anything is. We're right on board Progar on. He got up into that wall too, so that kind of checked him up, lost him a lot of momentum, but unfortunately, again, they just kind of come together on entry, and you can see Progar heavy hit into the outside wall, and I think he's actually almost brought it to a complete stop there for a second, but he got it back going.
Not rolling, but Tyler Ducharme not going to be able to. Engine expired for the 16 team, and due to the fact that the 16 will not be able to continue on, the 9 will. Tyler Humphrey will be the driver that moves on, and now we know, Zach, our 4 drivers that move on to the final 4 of the in-season bracket challenge, being a Mark Whitley. He'll be versing Tyler Humphrey next week, and then on the other side of the bracket, it's Chad Coleman going up against Brett Hahn. Certainly, there's one side of the bracket you'd say is heavily favored for one driver compared to the other, but you never know. With the way we've seen qualifying, the way these races go, and the fact that we're going to North Wilkesboro next week, no one knows who will be racing for that in-season bracket challenge in Indianapolis to win the $50.
I was just about to say, no real guarantees when we go to North Wilkesboro. I mean, we have no clue what to expect. I mean, we haven't had a short track on the schedule yet. This will be like the first true test of that. But also, that is a place where carnage, destruction, and many crazy things have played out before in our time here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting at Wilkesboro. So I'm expecting next week to be one of those weeks where it's going to be a night of unexpected things. I mean, yes, someone can still come out there and dominate, don't get me wrong, but there's going to be a chance and an opportunity for something wild and out of sorts to happen too.
Hey, I think one of my favorite quotes we ever had from a long series we had back in the day called The Long Run from Trenton Jump. If I'm not going to win the championship, he isn't going to win it either. So we might see some of that next week at North Wilkesboro. We'll see who wants to settle the score on who's moving on in the in-season bracket challenge as the field is stacking back up. And it's about to be race time here for the Georgia Peach 200. We've had plenty of different wrecks. Let's bring up our race report as we're going to be having 30 laps to go. It's been a pleasure to give you the call so far here this evening. We've had 3 cautions, 7 different leaders, 25 lead changes at the time that they crossed the line. And a lot of green flag racing. Honestly, 3 cautions isn't bad when we've had probably about 15 saves of drivers getting sideways and collecting it up under green flag conditions. 2 drivers do have black flags currently. Will R. Moore has a black flag that he's going to have to serve, as we have lost Tyler Ducharme and Chris Progar from this race. They both have left the session. But it's about to be race time here with 30 laps to go. Everyone has made their potential final stop of the night. We can go clean and green and you're good on fuel and tires. The question is, do we have the patience to take it to the end? Is there even patience allowed this late in the race? It's time to find out and see for the 802 Next Gen Elite Series. Race 6 The Georgia Peach 200 from Echo Park about to get back underway. It's 30 laps to go. Kevin D. Brown, Richard Beasley lead the field as we roar down into turn number 1.
Wow, that outside line did not get going there. Beasley going to have to figure this out and try to get going, but he's going to have, I think, that 8 of Coleman right there alongside as now the 8 clears, the 33 also clears along, the 17 drops low here for the time being as they come off a 2. That inside line is proving strong.
It really is proving to be strong. Debut driver 91 of Bryce Benton, who's been one of the drivers involved with the first wreck of the race back at lap 5, has been trying to repair that 91 all night long. With the amount of cautions we've had, hasn't had a lot of time to fully repair it, but enough to be competitive. And here we go, one of the first times we're truly seeing this 91 with true speed here tonight. Zach, haven't really been able to talk about the 91 as a debut driver, but he is up there with the Chad Colemans, the Kenny Reels, the Kevin D. Browns. When it comes to iRating skill level, he's up in that 5,000 iRating bracket, which iRacing, that's how you deem your ranking, is by racing officials getting those rankings higher and higher. But 5,000 is nothing to scoff at. That is a lot of time in iRacing and a lot of skill to get up there.
Oh, no doubt. Definitely takes a while to climb those ranks, and those boys have done that for sure. And I mean, right now our top 3, all of them 5,200 iRating and higher. So that just shows you the skill and the perfection that they've done so far. Is farther back there, Josh Parker squeezing into a small gap. Steve Tucker, though, getting shuckled into the middle. He might have to try to fight back down, and he's going to get
there's
spun.
The contact. It's going to be the Zero Machine dropping down low. They're going to be 4 wide for a quick second. Still 3 wide as everyone's trying to shuffle their way into a position to enter into turn number 3. Angel able to make his way through the middle groove as well. It's going to be the 61 as Steve Ritter. Ritter's been getting loose, been out of hand. There have been multiple times that 61 has gone sideways or someone's gone sideways in front of him. Watch out for that white 61 who bounces to the outside. Zach, I got a feeling the magnet's been around him. There might be another carnage waiting just around the bend.
Oh, carnage is always waiting around the bend here in Atlanta, that's for sure. And right now, we're getting down to the crunch time. Everybody's willing to risk it. Everybody knows you got to get to that front top 5 if you want to have a chance and an opportunity to fight for that win. They don't want to just be back here for a top 10. They know this could be their only chance this season for maybe their victory.
As Isaiah Sutherland leads this race, trying to control both different lanes. But if you keep on making those moves, you're going to be stuck in the middle at some point. As Anthony Calatoni, our pole setter driver, trying to work the outside groove, but trying to find a way to get to the inside of the 74 if it's possible. But who's willing to follow? Who's willing to work with one another? At this point of the race, if we were at Daytona or Talladega, we've already would have seen probably some drivers making some race-winning practice moves on each other. Zach, we haven't really seen anyone practice get up front. It's kind of a Hail Mary, hope I get a good push, and then I'm there and defending.
It really has been that way, and right now, I tell you what, we're riding on board with Calatoni. He's been one of the most aggressive drivers, in my opinion, to making moves, so he'll be one definitely looking to try to make something happen, as right now, that bottom line just shoving each other. They stacked up pretty hard there. You saw Sutherland really drive it off into one there, was able to carry momentum, and now that outside line's rolling. They got everybody stacked up. That inside is kind of stacked for the time being, and it's going to be Johnny Wood Jr. trying to push these front 2 ahead.
And it was multiple laps of this 91 that we were riding on board with. He was right on the back bumper of Kevin D. Brown ahead. And I'm curious if maybe the engine levels were getting us slightly too warm, had to back off, had to lose the momentum, and that's going to be something that we keep an eye on as this race progresses forward. Yes, you've got 5 gears to work with, but the engine temps will creep up if you're not careful, and we could see someone have an expiring engine with the ramping up of adrenaline, the ramping up of these drivers pushing these vehicles to the max. It's all on the line now of who can get up front, and currently it's Kevin D. Brown able to finally get ahead of that 74 of Sutherland.
Wow, Sutherland there, he couldn't put a piece of paper in him between the wall. He was right there against that thing on the exit of 4. But right now, Calatoni has been given some big shoves on that top side. It was last time off of 2, that 74 was dead sideways. I thought he was wrecked. He saved it, so we continue on. But these bumps, everything is coming to a head, because right now, we'll be coming by this time here to complete lap 109. And once you get, under 20 to go, it's going to start to get even more aggressive. And then expect that 10 to go number. That's when everybody throws caution to the wind.
And when will we see someone force the issue to go 3 wide and have multiple people following through? If you stay side by side, it's practically just the top 6 that are going to be winning this race. Is Calatoni, big dashing move, had the opening to go down low. That's going to be forced Simley down into 3 wide. As Benton up front, he'll now dash to the inside, getting out of the way of Kevin D. Brown, and wants to lead this race as the debut driver of going to be Bryce Benton. Where did this 91 come from? Because he has been quick. He's been up front. He survived some of the wrecks and carnage, and Zach now leading this race. But behind them, they're still shuffling to find space to move forward.
I think the problem for Bryce is he's still got a good bit of damage on the left front nose. He is still hurt pretty bad. So I think if he's behind someone tucked up right behind him, he can push probably really strong still, and his car is really fast. But as soon as he tries to lead a line, I think that will be an issue for him. So he'll have to time this. If he wants to go for a win, he can't get out there and lead a full lap, in my opinion. He needs to lead the last half of the lap.
And that outside row coming into turn number 1, they were very close to that outside wall. It kind of sticks out a little bit. If you're not careful, you can slap that outside wall if you do not recognize how close you are to it. And I thought right there heading into 1, that outside row was about to demolish the right side. Zach, it is getting dangerous on how they're trying to even push the track to its limit, on how far you can go to the outside, how far you can get down to the apron line. There is a lot that you have to be careful with, and you have to stay in the parameters of the outside wall in that red line. If you advance forward going below that red line, you will be penalized.
You will be. That is part of the rule book there. And right now, you got that 91 who jumped to the outside of Bryce D. Benton, and he's able to, in the corners, really do a great job, in my opinion, of pulling right up to the next car ahead of him. But the straightaways, that's where I think the damage is hurting him the most. I think there's just a little bit more drag on that car, and you can see, look at Sutherland. He gets right to the bumper right there, and it's going to be dangerous because of that. He's going to be stacked up behind him, and they're stacking more, as I think this 91, if anything, he needs to find a way to get behind another car. His car is just a little too hurt, and you can't really tell that from inside the car.
And the last driver you want to have on your back bumper, if you're having this type of issue with Isaiah Sutherland, he is going to move you forward. Either you're spinning out off his nose, or he's going to push you to the lead. Because with 16 laps to go as we cross the line, this is the countdown of how do we make it to the end. Is it under green, or do we have another big one lining up for us? Because we went from side by side first, second, and third. Now they're back to battling for 6th, 7th. You got a line of drivers to get by. That outside row needs to build up the momentum. Who wants to be the leader up front on that outside groove? And it's Calatoni in the 84. He bounces up there, but will he stay working with Benton? He will, as trying to get to the outside quarter panel of Josh Parker, but Parker says, I want to be the lead driver on the outside.
Parker making an aggressive move. We've seen him make a few of those already. He really wants to lead that outside line, and if anything, I think this helps the 91 of Benton. He brings him right back into the mix, and Coleman on the bottom gets loose. He's going to get stacked up 3 wide now into 3.
Oh no, and it's the 42 Pepsi machine that's going to be stuck in the middle, heading backwards with no help behind him. But will he find anyone that's willing to work and maybe make a third lane be created? Scott Simley gets pushed to the outside row. That 33 is no longer a part of the action. It is Josh Parker, Calatoni working the outside groove. Got the speed and the help from the 91, and they are charging forward. But Zach, everyone else behind them are just trying to build a side-by-side run again, because they're still stuck 3 wide, even deeper in the field.
That they are stuck like that. And look at Parker. He's jumping up to the top to block off Calatoni. Gives him a little bit of the air. Now going to jump back down in front of Kevin Brown. And like you said, you brought it up with Sutherland. You got to pick and choose your lanes wisely, because if not, they're going to split you, put you in the middle, and next thing you know, you go from the lead to maybe outside the top 10.
Looking back, there's just always a chance of someone building up the speed. Where do you want to go? We are on board with Josh Parker, our leader, and behind him is over 20 plus drivers that see a chance, an opportunity to move up front. But you're running out of time, you're running out of laps, and have you forgotten that this car is angry and mad at you at every time you make a late dashing move? Because Zach, the way that these guys were running those last 3 laps, it was like they forgot that this car can snap at any moment if you're not careful.
That they did, Sam, and I'll tell you what, another big thing I'm watching, Parker, he gets a really good shove from Brown in that second place position. It shoves him so far out in the corners, and then Brown really gets a great run down the straightaways.
Oh,
And Calatoni's wrecking.
Into Coleman into the outside wall. Caution is out.
Oh.
A heavy blow with Timothy Parker. Heavy contact for the 18 as he scatters across the grass. And there's the contact on the outside we were waiting for with now 11 laps to go. It's a shootout to the end.
Involving 3 drivers. We thought maybe it could have a chance for win. It is going to be up in smoke for him here at the Echo Park Speedways. We'll take the look here, like Sam said. 2 by 2 there it is Coleman on the bottom, Calatoni up top, and you got that 91 of Benton right behind Calatoni, and you're going to see just loose. They're off the exit of the corner, and he's going to clip the 8, clip the 91 on his outside, and those 3 are stuck together. And look at Timothy Parker. He's just unfortunately breaks to the right there, and that puts him right in the path of those cars.
Just nowhere to go for the 18 as he made that move to the outside. Was hoping that it was just going to clear up when he went up there. Did not self-clear on this track, especially on the front stretches. Well, right on board with the 18. Get a sense of what he saw in front of him because, once again, Zach, that outside wall, that's just as dangerous as what we've seen as instead of following the driver ahead of you, went for the clearance of what can I see, and you saw the wreck and were involved with it. But, Zach, that outside wall has just been as dangerous as having a driver directly on your rear end at the center of the corner, it seems like.
It has, and like I've seen a lot tonight where like a driver will be running kind of like that 2nd to 3rd groove in the track, and they'll kind of wash up immediately into the 4th groove right against the wall late on the exit, and it's like they lose the nose, and then as they try to like crank the wheel into the car to keep it turning, that is what causes the rear end to snap, and that just leads to more issues. So it seems like a common trend we've seen tonight from the outside line, and these drivers have just been on edge, I'd say the least, man. It has been impressive to see them save the ones up to this point, but I feel like the farther we got into this race, the more they were going to push the edge, and more of them weren't going to save it, just because, you know, if sometimes if you try to save it, you're going to be out of the mix for the race.
You know, a fact of the track that we really haven't talked about is the weather here tonight. And I know Atlanta, this is where Echo Park Speedway is from. It is a hot track, and old Atlanta had the nickname of Hot Atlanta. It was hot, it was slick, it was a maddening track to be on at times. Here tonight, 87 degrees ambient temperature, 113 degrees is the track temp, with the wind fluctuating at times on if it wants to stay at 7 miles per hour, go higher, a little bit lower, but around that 7's been the medium for most of this race. But Zach, as we're taking our admin box 1 to green, I'm curious on your thoughts on how that 113 degree weather on the track temp might be also affecting these vehicles here tonight.
Has a huge effect, in my opinion, Sam. I mean, this track, over the time that we've gotten the race it here, that we've got it on iRacing, I think more and more of us have learned the tendencies of it. You know, it seems like when the track cools off, it gains a bunch of speed, gains a bunch of grip. It seems like when it gets hot, it just does the opposite. You know, you lose a little bit of speed out there, of course, but you also lose a ton of grip, and it really equates to even more tire wear. I think even as this track ages too, I mean, we hear it from the Cup Series drivers every year they go back there. I mean, even every time when they go back there the second time for that year, they talk about how the grip is gone even a lower degree down. And I think that also is a factor where this track kind of lies in Atlanta, Georgia, just the winters and the summers they get. You know, it's cold in the winter, hot in the summer. So I think this track is going to be an interesting one over the years, especially as we get updates with the scan. It's going to continue to evolve as a track that is affected more and more, I think, by the temperatures on the racetrack.
It's so much fun to see how the temperature affects these cars. But we also want to say thank you to our sponsors right before we go green, to G-Stone Motors for being our replay sponsor, for BG Graphics for being our caution sponsor, the 802 iRacing League podcast for being our white flag sponsor, as well as the admin box to our 1 to green. And finally, want to say thank you to Riptide Radio for being the sponsor of the post-race show. After the checkered flag here tonight, stay tuned. We got the post-race show right after that as we are green. Could this be the last restart of the night? It's time to see. It's Josh Parker, great launch for himself, and it's Richard Beasley, another fabulous launch for the 17. As Kevin D. Brown, also Isaiah Sutherland, Johnny Wood. Where do you want to place yourself to finish out this race? Because I got a feeling 74, 75, they're going to work together. Who can tag along as you watch Sutherland rip to the top and try to get to the top of the totem pole to win here tonight?
And, you know, you brought it up. They're going to work together. That is the thing I'm going to be interested in most in, I think, watching here tonight. Who all is going to work together. Did you build the relationships? And look at Parker.
Oh,
He
no,
went to block him. He's in the wall.
He throws himself into the outside wall, but keeps the momentum. Parker was hoping to have an alliance on the outside, but Sutherland said no. Instead, it's Beasley Brown pulling ahead with Steve Tucker following in suit on the inside. Parker as well. And with the damage that Sutherland just took on, how fast can that 74 really be? As they've got 7 laps, about to be 6 to mount up the speed again.
We'll see how they can mount it up. I looked at the race car for a quick second. Looks all good. Just some scuff marks. So he should be good for the time being as the run is coming. He's got back up to that 3rd car on the row. Now alongside Steve Tucker, here comes the outside line powered by Isaiah Sutherland.
Sutherland looks good, and he's right back to where he was on the immediate restart. Further on back, they're still trying to get 2 wide. They were 3 wide for most of the last couple of laps. Sutherland, Wood, as well as going to be seeing the 08, a Maddox Beard. We haven't talked about that Nitro 08 at all here tonight, but he's now found himself into the mix instead of our top 10. A couple of other drivers really haven't talked about a lot here tonight are getting into the mix. I mean, this has been some fun to see drivers that are emerging as they have been quiet for most of this evening. Joe Hudson also inside of the top 10, but Sutherland is there. Wood has helped him, and now it's Beasley, Sutherland side by side with having the help of Wood right behind. Do you have the alliance to make this work with 4 laps to go?
And I tell you what, Sam, I'm looking farther back.
Let's put Hahn in the grass.
Yeah, Hahn into the grass, and some of the drivers with some pressure tires are starting to come through. Chad Coleman, Bryce D. Benton, they were involved in that latest wreck. They're back into the top 10 here with a fight, and it's side by side down the back straightaway, even from our 2 rows.
30-lap advantage for the 91 machine, who is going to be the 4th driver on the outside, as a big wiggle from Wood. And luckily has enough space to save it. But that 2nd car on the outside, with that loss of run, the big gap of air, Sutherland's going to lose touch. He's going to falter back. And that's going to be giving now chances for some other drivers to get in the mix. Mark Whitley, who's on the inside. Zach, same for the 91. They're side by side, but they're the ones with the freshest of tires with these 3 laps to go.
Those tires are going to help maneuverability. They're going to help you to be able to keep that gas lower to the floor than anybody around is. Look back in the background. Chad Coleman to the top ropes. He's trying to use those tires.
He's into the wall, though, and he's losing touch to the ground now. Sutherland, Wood, they're back together and side by side. 2 laps to go as Sutherland is side by side for 2nd.
Richard Beasley able to take control for the time here down the back straightaway. What will he do? He has to look in the mirror, looks left, looks right, now stays to the bottom as Sutherland looks to get the push. He's going to need some help because the others are stacking up on the inside as here comes Steve Tucker.
Oh, are they going to make it to the white flag, or are they going to wreck coming at turn number 4? We look up to the flag stand. Still no caution is thrown somehow across the line. It's your 802 iRacing League page podcast. Zach, no caution was thrown. It's a 3-horse race for the win.
Wow, I've never seen this on iRacing before. I say that, but it probably has happened. Is down the back straightaway. 3 cars are broken away. What's Kevin D. Brown going to do? He looks to the outside. Who does Sutherland go with?
Sutherland's going to make it 3 wide. He's not going to just lay in soup, but he's helping Kevin D. Brown on the outer groove. Beasley trying to get to the inside quarter panel, but he can't get there. It's Kevin D. Brown winning the Georgia Peach 200 from Echo Park.
It's Richard Beasley going to come home in the 2nd spot with Sutherland coming home with another podium in the 74. And man, oh man, Sam, all hell broke loose there coming to the white. I am so surprised we didn't get a yellow.
I don't understand how that was not a yellow. I don't understand. Usually iRacing would throw that, but we had so many awkward slides in spins today. It just makes sense that they would just let them race it out all the way to the end. And Kevin D. Brown, the late lunge to the outside, getting the draft help from Sutherland. And it's Kevin D. Brown that was up front, leading most of this charge, was doing everything right in his power. He'll get the win. A little bit of contact love from Johnny Wood Jr. And it is the 93 that burns it down here tonight and will make it 6 races, 6 different winners. Congratulations to Kevin D. Brown. When we come back, it is the Riptide Radio post-race show. We'll talk to our top 3, Kevin D. Brown, Richard Beasley, Isaiah Sutherland. Talk about how this race went down. We'll get you set up for next week. We can't wait for it. We'll see you on the other side for the Riptide Radio post-race show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the Riptide Radio post-race show. It certainly was chaos. It was madness. Probably should have went to overtime, but at the end of the day, we find ourselves seeing the 93 continuing on the streak of 5 races, 5 different winners. Well, let's make it now 6 races and 6 different winners. We got Kevin D. Brown with us. Kevin, you were up front all race long, but coming out of 4, taking the white flag, when you saw all the smoke in your mirror, were you shocked that we were going to be racing this thing out and there was no caution being thrown?
Yeah, I was really surprised. Beasley's my teammate, and I was pushing him, and I was just stay in it, man. Just stay in it. Hopefully we get the white. And luckily we made it to the white flag.
Definitely great for y'all to make it back to the white flag there, Kevin. I mean, what a great race for y'all, man. I mean, take us through there at the end. I mean, it was getting wild before that incident even happened. What was kind of going through y'all's mind for the game plan?
I just told Beasley just keep it straight. I tried to keep it on the bottom there. Try to play the lanes like I was doing earlier in the race, which he was doing a good job of that. And he kind of got loose out of, I think it was 2 there, and he almost wrecked. But he was doing a good job of playing the lanes. And like I said, luckily they wrecked behind us. It was just pretty much a 3-man race there at the end. So I told Beasley, whatever happens, happens. So.
Well, this is only your 3rd start of the season, Kevin, and what a way to get a win already for yourself. What was it like just coming into this race, knowing that it's another knockout qualifying evening, and you just had to survive the night that seemed like it was just utter chaos with the way this rear end wanted to snap on drivers?
Yeah, it was really crazy. It was really loose. It was a lot of fun, though. I'll be honest. We had a blast racing up there, and honestly, everybody raced up front pretty clean. I mean, I haven't get to look at the cautions yet, but I think for the most part it was a rather clean race compared to last week, So, so that's always fun. Our teammates, we tried to get everybody up there. It was me, Chad, Josh, and Beasley, and it worked out the end for me and Beasley, so.
It certainly did. Well, Kevin, congratulations on this win. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout-outs.
Yeah, you guys put on a beautiful broadcast. Can't wait to go look at it. Rob put on the league and the series. I appreciate him. The drivers, we had an awesome race. That green flag run was amazing. It's been a while since I did a green flag pit stop here in Atlanta. But yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
Well, thank you for giving us such a show to call. That will be your winner here tonight from the Georgia Peach 200 of Kevin D. Brown. Kevin, enjoy this victory and good luck next week at North of Wilkesboro.
Thanks, guys.
As that was a pleasure to call, pleasure to see how the drivers all went down there at the end. But we're going to move up and see how second place finisher, the 17 of Richard Beasley's feeling. Richard, you were up front, had to carve your way through the field at the start. You qualified 30th, made it to second. When you're up front, you usually stay there. How are you feeling, though, after your performance here this evening?
Well, it's a little bittersweet. I'm feeling good. It's a nice, good, strong finish, but I wish we could have got the dub. We were right there, and I just had no help at the end.
Yeah, unfortunately, the whole pack was going for you there, Richard, to kind of help out your situation. But still, like you said, a great finish here for you tonight. But, man, those cars look evil at some points out there tonight. We've seen a lot of guys struggling with the rear ends. Kind of take us through that, because it seemed like at any moment someone could be wrecking.
Yeah, it was two different types of loose. I felt like if somebody got up right behind you, you were losing the rear end, and then if you're by yourself just trying to drive off the corner, it was so hot. You're losing the rear end. It was, either or. You're getting loose either one way or another.
It certainly seemed that way. Richard, this is just your 3rd race this season, and you're getting your first top 5. You finished in the top 10 every race that you participated in. What is it like racing with these guys, knowing you got a qualifier way in? You did that here tonight, but now we're heading to a short track next week. What's the confidence level heading to North Wilkesboro with the fact you have to qualify in?
Yeah, the qualifying's a little nerve-wracking. I'm not the best qualifier, so that I'm kind of on edge in that. But once I get in, we seem to run okay, and I'm looking forward to Wilkesboro. That's a fun track. Growing up, used to watch a lot of races there, so it'll be fun to go race there next week.
Well, it's certainly you gave us a show here tonight. It was a pleasure to call. But before we let you go, the floor's now yours for any of the shout-outs.
Thanks, man. I want to congratulate Kevin DeBrown. Was one of my teammates. Good win. Josh Parker, Chad Coleman. We run together every week. Alan Cryer up in our spotter stand, so to speak. And Rob Lowell and the guys over here. They do a great job putting on this league, and you guys do a great job up in the booth. I appreciate y'all.
Well, again, it's up to the show that you guys give us. It makes it easy on our end to call it. Thank you so much for an incredible race. Congratulations on second, and good luck next week at North Wilkesboro.
Thank you.
Again, that's going to be second place finisher, the 17 of Richard Beasley. We then go down to third place to talk to the 74 of Isaiah Sutherland. Was trying to make some hard charging moves, but ultimately just wasn't enough help at the end. Well, this 74 looked good there, Isaiah. You come away third, but man, there was moments where we thought you were going to be the driver to beat at the end of this thing. How are you feeling coming away third?
That was awesome. I always do pretty good here at Atlanta on the drafting track, so felt pretty good. The car was very sketchy though. It seemed like it would get really snappy loose, and so I think I have carpal tunnel from gripping the wheel so hard for all those laps. But yeah, it felt great on the long runs. It would tighten up and you wouldn't have to worry about it snapping, but on that last run right there, giving it all you got, it just felt like it was gonna snap and hit the wall at any moment. But big shout out to Johnny Wood Jr. there, helping me out, and that last restart was perfect. We were able to get up from the bottom to the top and push me really good, and thought, I was gonna get the momentum on the top and got the lead there for a minute, but after about 2 laps, those tires warmed up with 3 to go. It was just wanting to snap on me again. So did all we could. Looked in my rearview mirror, saw that there was a big wreck, and I was already beside the 93 with nobody behind me, and I knew I was gonna lose a lot of momentum. So I went ahead and just backed up and got behind Kevin there and tried to build a run up to try to get beside him or do something at the finish. But man, that was awesome.
It definitely was, Isaiah. Congrats on another podium, man. And you brought up the loose condition. It seemed like a few times tonight there was a few guys that directly ahead of you kind of having that loose condition. How nerve-wracking is that, knowing like everybody's on edge and on ice like that in these big packs?
It's terrifying. Anytime I went to the top, which I preferred after a few laps, I had in the back of my head that any moment somebody could snap below me and come right back up the track. And it's quite funny, that happened multiple times, and somehow I was able to miss it. And I didn't really even try to avoid it. I just kind of sat there and hit the brakes, downshifted, and held on, and thankfully I didn't get into it. But early on, the number 9 was in front of me, and he got loose, hitting one of the bumps, and that's when I knew, like, oh yeah, there's going to be trouble. And he ended up getting loose, and I just couldn't check up into, I mean, going 180 in the turns, and you're an inch off somebody, it's almost impossible to check up then and there. So but I knew after that it was going to be treacherous, and me and Johnny and my good friend Eric, we were all kind of laughing, talking to each other, because every turn we were like, is this going to be the turn that our cars just randomly wreck? And it's kind of on the nose realistic where Kyle Larson just snapped. I think it was a year ago, the car just snapped going into the turn. And these are just very unpredictable like that. So yeah, you're right. It was pretty scary. You never knew if you were going to go around or if the cars in front of you were going to go around. And if they did, that's 15, 20 cars easily could get caught up in something like that.
Well, it's moving from the unpredictability of a super speedway style course to the unpredictability of a short track. That's where we're heading towards next of North Wilkesboro. Isaiah, what's the comfort zone knowing that we're heading to a short track and it's going to be the first one of the season that we're most likely going to have 40 guys out there on track 4?
I love short course or short road courses. What am I talking about? I love short tracks. The only thing is it's hard to get in a league where you can actually race them cleanly. There's been a few I've been in. So if the race goes clean, I feel pretty good about it. Although I'd have to say North Wilkesboro may be my worst short track to race at, but I do enjoy the track. So I look forward to it. I love a short track race, and hopefully it's a clean one. And we'll see what we can do. Maybe top 10. What I'm looking for.
Hey, that's not a bad goal to go after. Well, Isaiah, congratulations on third here tonight. Before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout-outs.
Yes, Sam, you guys do a wonderful job at Freaky Fast. Been doing this a long time, so always enjoy watching your streams, even other races I don't even race in. Sometimes I'll just click on and watch. So you guys do great. Big shout out to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Love him so much. He's been so great to me and my family. I want to thank my family. They always tune in and watch. So shout out to them, my wife, and our 5-month-old son. I'm very thankful she lets me hop in here and do this every Thursday. Any other family members or friends watching, and also big shout out to Johnny tonight. He helped me so much there at the end.
Well, that will be the 74 machine of Isaiah Sutherland. Isaiah, congratulations again on third, and good luck next week at North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
Hopefully, what you talk to you, Isaiah. That was a interview of our top three. They've been, honestly, the three that survived the madness at the end. Still shocked and baffled on the fact that there was no caution thrown at the end. We were talking about as we were waiting for the drivers to get into the waiting room of, was there ever going to be a yellow thrown? Because we've seen at other tracks, the yellow is thrown immediately. Sometimes the yellow is thrown after the leader even took the white flag. But tonight it was carnage and then just a duel of three drivers to see who was taking the victory. And at the end of the day, it was the 93 of Kevin D. Brown taking the unofficial results here tonight victory. And then with Richard Beasley in second, third goes to Isaiah Sutherland. Then it was survival of the fittest. Josh Parker will take the fourth for the 26th. Steve Ritter sneaks his way through for fifth. Mark Whitley, fresh tires, able to sneak his way to sixth position. The 44 of Dustin Coggins does survive the race and will take a top 10 finish for the 44. Maddox Beard will take eighth. Ninth is Chad Coleman, who we saw caught up in a couple of wrecks there late, but he makes it through. And Tyler Humphrey as well, taking ninth position, taking the 9 machine to 10th. But Zach, the rest of the field, I mean, honestly, from 8th on back, we're just scooting their way after being involved with that giant wreck.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I'm looking at is some of these gaps on the right side, folks. So if you see here on the right side of our screen here, that is the time to the leader. So, I mean, you look at someone like a Brett Hahn there in 17th. He's 17 seconds behind the leader. So it just shows you, again, how much they had to limp around. And some of these guys were right in the mix. I mean, I look at Bryce D. Benton there in 15. His debut tonight, he was coming back from damage multiple times. He was right in the mix at the end, got caught up in it. So, tough ordeal. I mean, and as you look even farther down, look at someone like a Johnny Wood Jr. who was on that outside line right behind the guy we just talked to, Isaiah Sutherland. He finishes 26. So, Sam, it just shows this is a place that you literally, you never know till you cross that line. You could be running second, you could be running third, and next thing you know, you're 26th.
Yeah, it is up in the air of where you might finish if you're caught up in the big one late, but it certainly gave us a show to call every lap. I mean, we even heard from the drivers as here's the 4 that did not make it. You've got Derek McDonald, Johnny Barker, Colin Trebass, and the fact that Rob Lowell, who has gotten a pole, Johnny Barker, who got a pole earlier in the season, did not even make it into tonight's show, just showing how difficult it is. And next week's going to be even harder as they're heading to North Wilkesboro, the next track on the docket. Tonight was white knuckle, hold on, and like we heard from the drivers, you never knew if that next corner, that next lap, the car was going to spin out. Well, next week, it's the next lap. Are you going to even be there? The next restart, is there going to be a wreck? Because 40 drivers on a short track, it's got a calling sign, Zach, of it's going to be a bad mess to watch out for next week.
Yeah, I'm hoping for the best. I mean, a lot of these guys here seem respectful. There is a lot of aggressive moves, but you have to make those aggressive moves in these big packs. But I think next week, everybody's got to take a step back, look at themselves and just say, all right, I cannot, drive through somebody. I have to, work my way around. And sometimes at a short track, you get caught up where you get bottled up for 20, 30 laps. But you just got to sit there and take it. And if you're quicker, you'll work your way around. And I think if everybody can have that mentality, it'll work. The problem is you got 40 drivers out there looking to win the race. So nobody is willing to work with that. And it sometimes leads to some issues. So we'll have to see. I'm hoping for the best, of course. I love that track. I love short track racing overall in general. We also have, this low, no diffuser, low or high horsepower package that the next gen has now at some of these short tracks. I think that'll bode well for North Wilkesboro. And I can't wait to see how these guys attack it, man. It's going to be definitely an interesting one, and one you're going to have to stay on top of with the strategy, because again, if we get a bunch of yellows, you're going to have to pick and choose your timing of your pit stops very well, because that could be the difference between surviving and not.
And if you want to see some high horsepower racing action, we got you covered, as we are, again, like I said earlier in the broadcast, we've got 3 nights on the week that we're calling races. We got the Trinity Racing League on Monday. They're going to be taking the O'Reilly's car, adding 10% extra horsepower as they're heading to Auto Club, a track that no longer exists in real life, and it's so heartbreaking to say that. But at least we've got one of the best tracks on iRacing that we're going to be seeing of Auto Club on the virtual side on Monday for the Trinity Racing League. Tuesday, we head to Michigan for the last race of the regular season. Who's in, who's out? Racing for the chase. Only 12 drivers make it in, and there is a very fine and close difference between our 10th place in points to about 16th in points on who's in or out. Don't want to miss that on Tuesdays, as we're going to have those 2 bigger tracks before we're right back here Thursday nights, 8:02, where we will be heading to North Wilkesboro for the short track racing. A lot on the line, Zach. I'm excited for it, but honestly, these next 2 tracks for these next 2 series that we have on Monday and Tuesday, I'm thrilled to see.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. Xfinity car, extra power. That sounds so cool. I mean, Auto Club too. Every time we go there, it's like bittersweet just knowing that it's not non-existent anymore, and it's just such a beautiful racetrack that we don't have the graces of real life racing, but again, iRacing gives us that chance to do it again. So I'm so happy we get to see that. And of course, BRB, then they're getting right into the thick of it when it comes down to the end of their season. Michigan is going to be intense for a chase cut, a regular season finale to, cut down the 12 for that chase. So cannot wait for that. North Wilkesboro next week. Cannot complain about that either, man. That is short track action. So I think we got 3 lined up great on the schedule. And, before we sit it out here, I just want to say shout out to Kevin D. Brown. Great job for him to get a victory tonight.
It was an awesome job for himself. And then also for the 802 Next Gen Elite Series, we have to always say thank you to the primary sponsors that have partnered up. We want to say thank you to G-Stone Motors. It wasn't able to do their full read, so we're going to give them their spotlights for all these sponsors. Whether you're looking for work-ready trucks or performance vehicles, trust the teams that support racing in the Northeast for generations. Visit G-Stone Motors in the Vermont Middlebury area. Remember, you're not just a customer, you're family. We also want to say thank you to BG Graphics. If you look up BG Graphics on Facebook, that's BG Graphics with 2 X's at the end. Reach out today, and if you mention, hey, you heard BG Graphics from Freaky Fast Broadcasting, they will offer you a 10% off on your next order. Lastly, we want to give a shout out to the 802 iRacing League podcast. Listen in all of the places that you can listen to all podcasts, from YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music, to hear all the conversations from all the different leagues that the 802 iRacing League puts on, from their Sunday series to their Tuesday and Wednesday series, to ultimately the one that you're hearing right now of the 802 Elite Next Gen Series. You can hear all the conversations from drivers themselves as well as others that are part of the series. Again, you can go listen to all podcasts, but ultimately head to the YouTube page at 802 iRacing League Podcast today. And our final 2, we want to say thank you to the admin box and what we're under right now, our Riptide Radio post-race show. It's been a pleasure to give you the call on Thursday nights. For those that were watching live, to those that are watching after the fact, it's always great to see the racing action, and I hope you're enjoying it as well. Remember to like the stream if you're properly enjoying it. Subscribe if you want to see our future racing actions. And of course, from us here in Freaky Fast Broadcasting, myself, Sam Dyer, Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Jr., and everyone else behind the scenes at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. It was a pleasure to give you the call of the Georgia Peach 200. The 93 of Kevin D. Brown steals the show at the end. He'll take the victory here tonight. That's 6 races, 6 different winners. Let's see what chaos will bring for our first short track of the season as the 802 Next Gen Elite Series heads to North Wilkesboro next week. But if you can't wait until then, we got you covered. The drivers of the BRB Butt Kicker Pro Series, their last race of the regular season's on Tuesday. But the next broadcast we've got is the second race of the season. It's the Trinity Racing League. They're bumping up the horsepower to 110%, and we're heading to Auto Club. You don't want to miss it. It's Monday night, our next Freaky Fast broadcast.
I was standing, staying still, never said what I feel, and every time I took the blame, carried all this quiet shame, 'cause all the pressure in my chest, I've gotta fight to catch my breath, when every step still feels the same, trying not to break. Where do I go from here? Maybe I'll disappear. If I don't try, I'll never know. I'm waiting on you. Where do I go from here? There will be no more tears. Kill the doubt, feed the fire, hear the voice inside. Up, it's my turn this time. They took a shot, now I want mine. You fall, I rise, I take the wheel. So this is how it feels. Where do I go from here? Maybe I'll disappear. If I don't try, I'll never know. I'm